Chapter 8:23. When Niu Jianhu and the others heard this, they couldn't help but turn pale with fright. Yuqi Baolin and his brother didn't say anything. They just stood behind Cheng Chumo and didn't say anything. Well, Fengzi, not everyone can enter this military camp. Let this guy go. If he goes in, he will definitely lose a layer of skin. Li Chengqian hurried to persuade Zhong Feng. Zhong Feng waved his hand, but Cheng Chumo wouldn't let go no matter what. He even hugged Zhong Feng's legs, so tight that Zhong Feng could only roll his eyes. Let go of me. No, if you don't agree, I won't let go. Hey. Damn it, are you going to let go of Lao Tzu or not? No, unless you don't let me go down the mountain. Mother ***, my leg is going to break because of you. Zhong Feng struggled and shouted in pain. Li Chengqian saw Zhong Feng's face turn red and turned pale with fright. He hurried forward and pulled Cheng Chumo away with the two Yuqi brothers. Zhong Feng lay on the recliner. Wei Shuyu and Zhong Sun rushed forward and quickly massaged Zhong Feng's legs. Zhong Feng took a breath and said, I heard from old Niu that this is Lord Zhangxuan's order. The Emperor knows about the military studies in our academy. Lao Li is really too much. He actually told the Emperor about such an important thing. Now the Emperor is interested and wants to see the results. That's why he ordered old Niu to pass a message to me. He asked me to ask someone with good conditions here to drive it. If you don't go, do you want me to go? Cheng Chumo heard this and pointed outside the door. You go. You made this thing. If you don't go, who will? Zhong Feng rolled his eyes. Bastard, didn't you want to join the army? To put it bluntly, this is something that I, Lao Tzu, specially made for you. Either you follow Li Gan and do Dabbing's example and memorize the multiplication and division table within half a month, or you can scram down the mountain. Custom made for them. When Cheng Chumo, Wei Shuyu, Niu Jianhu, and Yuqi heard this, their eyes instantly lit up. However, when they thought of the miserable state of the army camp, they couldn't help but feel apprehensive. Iron Bull, do you miss the heavy cavalry? Do you want to be the first to get an impenetrable shield and armor? Big Idiot, Bug, do you too still want the special weapons that I've prepared for you? And, Dean, I want it. Without waiting for Zhong Feng to finish speaking, Jiao Khan excitedly grabbed Zhong Feng's shoulder. It was so painful that Zhong Feng sucked in a breath of cold air. His hands desperately hit the thing that was clamping his neck. After a while, Zhong Feng finally reacted. He glared at Jiao Khan and said, Damn it, Lao Tzu will set another rule. From now on, if anyone dares to touch Lao Tzu will make sure that they won't be able to learn what they want to learn for the rest of their life. Jiao Khan was shocked when he heard this and hurriedly knelt down. However, when he thought of Zhong Feng's previous rule, 2 streams of tears flowed out of his eyes. When Zhong Feng saw this, his heart softened. Go, go. If you want that thing, go with Iron Bull. When you come back every night, Lao Tzu will teach you more advanced things. When everyone heard this, they could not help but widen their eyes. Zhong Feng was actually going to impart private training. Everyone knew that Zhong Feng's book on the art of war and the training method were only half of it. This kid was unwilling to take out anything more precious. Now, he was going to impart them to Cheng Chumo. Yuqi Baolin and his brother hurriedly said, Fengzi, I want to go. I'm not afraid of hardships. I'll go. I'll go too. Fengzi, I'll go. Me, I'll go. At this moment, Wei Shuyu and the others' eyes almost popped out. They were all fighting to be the last. Only then did Cheng Chumo realize it. He was about to hug Wei Shuyu's leg again, but Wei Shuyu and Zhong Sun each sent him flying with a kick. Fengzi, I didn't say I'm not going. Cheng Chumo wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Zhong Feng looked at everyone with satisfaction and said, Don't worry. Jiao Khan, Iron Bull, Niu Xiaohu, and Yu Lin, the 3 of you go first. Otherwise, if everyone else leaves, we can't stay on this mountain. Hearing this, the few people who were named by Zhong Feng cheered, but Wei Shuyu and the others were regretting it. Go, go, get out of here now. When Zhong Feng saw that these people had gone crazy, he hurriedly threw them out. After they ran away while wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves, Zhong Feng then sneakily took out a wooden box from his bosom and threw one to each of them. "Come, I have a lot of this. One for each of you. Here." Everyone opened the box curiously and saw that there were brand new sunglasses lying inside. They could not help but be excited. But why would Wei Shuyu and the others care about this? They hurriedly asked, "Fengzi, the custom-made weapons you mentioned." Hearing this, Wei Shuyu and the others almost hugged Zhong Feng and kissed him. Seeing this, Zhong Feng hurriedly begged for mercy. "Everyone has one. I'll give you a surprise during the new year. Don't worry now. This thing can't be made in a short period of time. When I have time, I'll tailor it for you, okay?" At this moment, Cheng Chumo returned and said, "Oh no, Fengzi, the fool you tricked before is here again. He's here to cause trouble." Chapter 824. When Zhong Feng heard this, he was a little confused. What? When did Lao Tzu cheat people? Zhong Feng really couldn't remember this. As he asked curiously, he got up and walked out of the door. Cheng Chumo blocked Zhong Feng and said, "Isn't it that person called Shwa? Have you forgotten?" When Li Chengqian heard this, he couldn't help but think of Shwa's appearance. He asked with a strange face, "Why did that kid go up the mountain? How did he go up the mountain?" Cheng Chumo shrugged. He heard that Uncle Nyo told him to go up the mountain. Hearing this, Li Chengqian suddenly understood and looked at Zhong Feng with a strange expression. Although Zhong Feng didn't know about this mountain, it had already become a forbidden area in the imperial court. Without the approval of several generals, Li Chengqian's guards, and the Jinwu guards, or special certificates, no one could enter, let alone outsiders. Outsiders were either merchants with a clear background or slaves. No one else was allowed to enter. After Zhong Feng encountered the immortal Balm, Li Shimin was furious and set up an unwritten rule. Whoever barged in would be killed, no matter who it was. Even Li Chengqian would be beheaded if he dared to barge in without permission. Moreover, this Shwa was cheated badly by Zhong Feng before. Why did he come up the mountain this time? Didn't he hear that he came to the Tang dynasty to ask for help last time? He had already asked for help, but he still didn't leave. What was he thinking? Could it be that he really came to ask Fengzi for compensation for his previous losses? This dignified crown prince shouldn't be so poor, right? Li Chengqian also couldn't guess this kid's thoughts. He couldn't help but look at the puzzled Zhong Feng and ask, "Do you want me to go out and drive this kid down the mountain?" Zhong Feng heard this and said, "Drive what away? I also know now. It's that little rich man Zhen Lane. Now that he knows we are short of money, he is here to give us money. Why do you want to drive him away? Go, go, go. Invite him in." Zhong Feng really did remember this kid. But when he thought of the last time, Zhong Feng's heart became hot again. Good timing. Whatever he said would come. He was just short of money, and now it came. Before Zhong Feng could finish his fantasies. Under the guidance of Cheng Chumo, the purple-robed Shiva walked into Zhong Feng's small living room. Upon entering, Shiva first looked at the simple furnishings in the room, then looked at Li Chengqian and the others. Only then did he respectfully bow and say, "Shiva greets Dean Zhong Feng. Ha ha ha, so it's you. Come, 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 don't stand on ceremony. Seat of honor, seat of honor. Tai Nyo, serve the tea." Cheng Chumo pointed at his nose and walked out of the room gloomily. Jiao Khan and Yuchi Baolin had run away. Now, how did the matter of the sidekick find him? However, being depressed was one thing. But when he saw that someone was going to be in trouble, Cheng Chumo became excited. At this time, Li Chengqian and the others were sitting still in the room. They looked straight ahead and smoked their cigarettes. Originally, Zhong Feng wanted to greet them and introduce them to each other. But when he saw that they were all acting cool, he was too lazy to do so. Glancing at Shiva's bulging money bag, Zhong Feng smiled even more happily. "Why are you here from so far away? I heard that Zhenla is in big trouble now, is that right? What's going on? Is it serious?" Shiva's face turned bitter when he heard that. That was one of the reasons why he was here. "Brother Zhong Feng, you don't know. I don't know what's wrong with that D*MN India. They mobilized an army of 300,000 to invade Zhenla. To be honest, Zhenla is suffering. Zhongfeng heard that and nodded. That's right. That D*MN India. If I had an army of 100,000, no, 50,000 people, I would definitely lead them to fight for you. But I'm just a weak scholar. Weak scholar, Li Chengqian and the others were so embarrassed that they almost died of cancer. Are you worthy? Shiva became even more agitated when he heard that. Brother Zhong, these words of yours are enough. I came to the Great Tang precisely to seek the assistance of His Majesty, the wise and mighty Emperor. Shiva glanced at Li Chengqian as he spoke. Li Chengqian pretended not to see it. Shiva continued, but 10 days have passed, and I still haven't seen any response from the Tang dynasty. I'm worried that if this drags on, Zhenla will be destroyed. Brother Zhong, you have a lot of ideas. Can you give Zhenla a way out? As he spoke, Shiva hurriedly placed the money pouch with the golden leaves on the tea table beside Zhongfeng. Zhongfeng glanced at it and pretended to be angry. What are you doing? Take it back. We're brothers. We should help each other. When Shiva heard this, he really thought that Zhongfeng was incorruptible, so he pretended to take back the money bag. However, before he could grab the money bag, Zhongfeng said, "But seeing how sincere you are, I'll kindly accept it." Li Chengqian wanted to beat him up. Niu Jianhu and Yuqi Baoqi had never seen this side of Zhongfeng. In the past, he had always heard about how awesome Zhongfeng was, but now, what was this? Wasn't this King Street thug? Was this still the legendary awesome Zhongfeng? Chapter 825. Shiva was confused by Zhongfeng's action. But when he saw Zhongfeng accept it, he was relieved. There was a way to solve Zhenla's problem. Sure enough, after Zhongfeng received the money, Shiva hurriedly asked, "Brother Zhong, then tell me, how can I, Zhenla, resist this army of 300,000? There's no need to resist." Zhongfeng waved his hand. Oh! Shiva was surprised and hurriedly asked, "Brother Zhong, what good plan do you have? If you can solve my problem, I'll definitely give you a big gift." After thinking for a while, Shiva gritted his teeth and said, "We're willing to give you all the profits from our trade with the Tang dynasty for half a year." Hiss. Hearing this, Li Chengqian couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Half a year's profits. Although the price was very low now, Li Chengqian knew that each trade was worth tens of thousands of taels of gold. Wouldn't that be 60,000 taels of gold in half a year? Damn it, didn't he already give a solution? This was a huge scam. Li Chengqian wanted to slap himself. Do go, Wei Shuyu and the others looked as if they had eaten shit. 60,000 taels of gold. *CK his uncle. They were scammed by this kid just like that. They already knew that Shiva was blocked outside. If they knew that this kid was so generous, how could they let him go? Zhongfeng glanced at them and didn't even bother to look at them. Instead, it was Shiva who looked at them with surprise. Among these people, he had only seen Li Chengqian before. Although he was surprised that Li Chengqian was here, Shiva wasn't an idiot. Since Li Chengqian didn't say anything, it wouldn't be good if he did. Seeing that Zhongfeng didn't say anything, Shiva said worriedly, "Brother Zhong, this is the most I can do. Can you take pity on me, Zhenla, and help us? If you like the jade and jewelry from last time, I'll give you 10 carts on your wedding day. How about that?" Puff. Li Chengqian and the others rubbed their chests tightly and desperately resisted the urge to vomit blood. 10 carts, oh my god. Scammer, you big scammer. They couldn't help but curse Zhongfeng in their hearts. They were even wondering how much they should take from Zhongfeng when the time came. When Zhongfeng heard that, he sighed and said, "We're all brothers, what are you saying this for?" Alright, since we're brothers, I'll tell you now." Shiva immediately sat up straight. Zhongfeng coughed and lit a cigarette. Then, he gave one to Zhongfeng. However, Zhongfeng's fingers were trembling. If my guess is correct, 200,000 of these 300,000 soldiers are Turk. You don't know, but I heard from the returning merchants in Xiao Mountain Market that the Turks had mobilized 200,000 people, but in the end, the whereabouts of these 200,000 people were unknown. Then, there was internal strife in Tubo, and then there was riots in India. Think about it, both Tubo, India, and Tubo were affected by the locusts, and they mobilized 300,000 people. If their stomachs weren't full, why would they mobilize so many people? When Shiva heard that, he couldn't help but frown and think for a while. Then, he nodded. Zhong Feng took a puff of his cigarette, crossed his legs, and said, "Let's talk about other things. You're Prince Junla, so you should have countless spies in the country, right? You should know the actual number of soldiers in India, and you should also know about this disaster. Why did he suddenly put pressure on Junla? But how long has it been, and he's still slowly nibbling away at the border? If he really had 300,000 soldiers, he would only need 5 days to destroy you. But think about it, why didn't he do that?" When Shiva heard that, his face turned pale. Zhong Feng was right. That was really the case. Shiva couldn't help but ask again, "Brother Zhong, what does India mean? So you're saying that 200,000 of these 300,000 people are Turks?" Zhong Feng nodded. He took out a piece of white paper, then took out a bamboo stick, burned it in the oil lamp, and drew a map on the paper. "Look, this is your Junla. On the top is the Tang dynasty. Who's on the left?" "On the left is Tubo. Now that there's internal strife in Tubo, and your Junla encountered this problem, the Turks mobilized their troops again. But the Tang dynasty's Long Yu Dao is fine now. Why is that?" Shiva stared at the map and fell into deep thought. Li Chengqian and the others finally couldn't pretend anymore. They also came forward. Zhong Feng waved his hand and asked everyone to come closer. Then, he poked the bamboo stick in his hand on the 2 words Tang dynasty and said, "It's because they don't know who the Tang dynasty is helping, so they don't dare to start a full-scale war. That's why I said you don't have to worry. With the Tang dynasty around, India really doesn't dare to make a move. Now, who doesn't know that Junla is under the protection of the Tang dynasty? If they dare to make a move, they have to consider the revenge of the Tang dynasty. And to be honest, the Tang dynasty has already mobilized their army. The Tang dynasty has already mobilized. Why didn't I know?" Shiva was completely stunned by Zhong Feng's words. He hurriedly asked, "Brother Zhong, this is a serious matter. Please don't joke about it." Chapter 8:26. As long as the Tang dynasty was delayed, Junla would suffer for another day. Although Zhong Feng was right. The Indian army did not launch an all-out attack, but no one dared to be careless with a knife on their head. Zhong Feng saw that Shiva did not believe him, so he did not say anything. Instead, he continued to smoke. Shiva was anxious. How could Shiva, who had been taught a lesson before, not know what Zhong Feng wanted to do? He gritted his teeth and searched his chest for a long time before he took out an amber pendant. He handed it to Zhong Feng with a pained expression. "Brother Zhong, this was my mother's favorite when she was alive. I hope you will accept it." "Accept it, a relic from her mother?" Zhong Feng's face darkened. He said with certainty, "Shiva, who do you think I am? This is your mother's relic." "Where is this?" "This is the academy. I, Zhong Feng, hate those who do not follow the rules of filial piety. How dare you give away your mother's relic to someone else? Someone, send the guest out. Sigh. Can you be a human?" Li Chengqian could not stand it anymore. He slapped himself on the face and walked out of the living room in pain. Du Go and the others were watching with great interest. Shiva was shocked. He was almost scared to tears by Zhong Feng. He quickly put away the pendant. After some persuasion, Zhong Feng calmed down and said, "If you have something to say, just say it. Don't give me precious things. I, Zhong Feng, am not worthy of it. All right, let's talk about this. Otherwise, you won't be able to eat or sleep well. As far as I know, 10 days ago, the palace issued 10 secret orders, ordering the soldiers of the prefectures along the way to Chotsi city. This is the reason why the Indian army of 300,000 didn't dare to move." "Chotsi city?" Shiva was stunned. He did not understand. Zhong Feng saw that Shiva was about to ask an idiotic question again. He quickly waved his hand and said, "The Tang dynasty has a strategy called besieging Wei to save Zhao. Do you know about it?" Shiva shook his head in confusion. Zhong Feng was a little annoyed, his toes almost digging a big hole in the floor. He pointed at Dugo and said, "Da Bing, you tell him." Dugo calmly lit a cigarette and slowly said, "Actually, this matter is very simple. Regardless of whether those 300,000 people are Turkic or not, there is no way to investigate this matter now, and there is no need to investigate it. Tubo also came to the Tang dynasty for help before, so the emperor pondered and felt that there was something fishy about this matter. If we send reinforcements, what will happen to the Turks?" In the end, it was Fengzi who came up with a plan to send troops to Chotsi City. According to the map, Chotsi City can enter the Turks, reach India in 1 day, and reach Tuyuhun and Tubo in 1 day. In this way, under the three-pronged attack, no matter what tricks they have, they won't dare to act rashly. Do you think that under the watch of the elites of the Tang dynasty, India will dare to abandon the capital and force their way into Junla? Finally, Shiva's face slowly became agitated. At this time, he finally understood why those Indians, who clearly had such a big advantage, only lingered at the border. They didn't know the movements of the Tang dynasty's army. But waiting like this was not the way to go. He hurriedly asked, "Then, this is not the way to go either. Why didn't the warriors of the Tang dynasty attack India directly?" "You think too much." Zhongfeng waved his hand and said, "You just have to remember that at this time, you should do what you should do in Junla and pretend that nothing happened. Your country must have spies all over. If you act as if nothing happened, then the war at the border will collapse by itself. Is this even possible?" Shiva was stunned. But he didn't know whether Zhongfeng was right or not. However, since Zhongfeng said so, Shiva only needed to write a letter to know whether Zhongfeng was right or not. But in these 10 days, if the 100,000 Indian troops at the border of Junla wanted to attack, they would have attacked long ago. Why would they wait until now? Now, it seemed that what Zhongfeng said was true. And this person just said that this was all Brother Zhong's plan? Could it be that Brother Zhong also studied this military aspect? A touch of excitement flashed in Shiva's eyes. "Brother Zhong, if this is true, I, as your brother, will repay you generously." Zhongfeng waved his hand and said nothing. This time, he would just treat it as doing a good deed. However, when he thought of the country's total foreign trade income for half a year, Zhongfeng almost laughed out loud. "Okay, we're all brothers. As brothers, that's enough. Okay, if there's nothing else, you should go back and have a look. But the green thing you brought last time, I really like it." Shiva heard this and patted his chest. "If Brother Zhong likes it, I'll send someone back to Junla tomorrow and bring you a cart." A cart? Dugo also felt a little suffocated. In less than half an hour, Yi Zichen had arrived. Zhongfeng, this scammer, how many good things had he taken from them? This was too much. This was simply 2F** King Rich. Zhongfeng didn't have any expression on his face. After all, he was thick-skinned and was naturally immune to everything. "Then I'll thank Brother Shiva first." But, seeing that Zhongfeng was about to slip away, Shiva hurriedly said, "Brother Zhong, I still have a request." Chapter 8:27. Zhongfeng's eyes flashed with vigilance. But he still sat down and warmly invited Shiva to sit down. Then, he asked with a smile, "Brother, tell me, if there's anything I can help you with, I'll do my best to help you." "Really? Do you think that our Zhongfeng is the kind of person who takes money? No, who doesn't keep his word?" Shiva hurriedly asked, "I want to study at the academy on the mountain. I wonder, you. What did you say? Say it again." Zhongfeng felt that he didn't hear clearly and asked in surprise. Shiva stupidly said, "I want to study under you, brother, wait a moment. We need to discuss this matter." Li Chengqian suddenly rushed in and interrupted Shiva with a serious face. He said, "You should know the laws of the Tang dynasty. No academy can accept outsiders under any pretext. I wonder if Prince Shiva knows about this." Shiva was shocked when he heard that. His face instantly turned ugly. He really didn't know about this. Zhongfeng didn't expect this either. But thinking about it carefully, there really wasn't such a rule during the Tang dynasty's Zhongguan era. It was only during Wu Zetian's era that this kind of thing seemed to be slowly accepted. Shiva also knew that this matter was a little difficult. He could only give a fist salute and walk out of the wooden house. His main purpose of coming here was to learn everything about the Tang dynasty and then benefit Zhenla. If he didn't even learn anything from Zhongfeng, then he was unwilling to accept this. Shiva was actually an ambitious person, but at this moment, once the door was closed, Li Chengqian looked at Zhongfeng with a serious face and asked, "Fengzi, you have to think about what I said just now. If you blindly accept him, then there will be people from the Supreme Court inviting you for tea tomorrow." Although Li Chengqian knew that Shiva must have his father's permission to go up the mountain in front of everyone, he didn't give any specific advice on how to do it. Obviously, he wanted to let Zhongfeng make the decision himself. Zhongfeng asked curiously, "Then, is there any way to overcome this legal system?" Zhongfeng didn't really care if he took the siva or not. However, when he thought about the treasures of the level 10 car and the profits he could make in half a year, he was envious. Who asked him to be so poor that he didn't even have food to eat? Zhongfeng's question really stumped Li Chengqian. He hurriedly asked, "Dading, you're more familiar with these things. Think about it and see if you have any ideas. There is a way, but it all depends on whether this Crown Prince Saiwa is willing or not." Du Go stroked the small mustache on his chin and frowned. Merchants can stay on the mountain, but there are also slaves. If this Shiwa is willing to be Fengzi's slave and come to the mountain as a slave, then that's fine, but it's not like you don't know that slaves aren't qualified to enter the school, Li Chengqian interrupted Du Go. Du Go glanced at Zhongfeng and said, "Who said so? Look at Fengzi. Now, everyone in the academy can study in the academy. Does this rule work on him? Look at how many slaves there are in the academy now." As he spoke, Du Go took out a thick register from Zhongfeng's bookcase with a cigarette in his mouth. He patted it and said, "Up until now, there are 2003 people in the academy. More than half of them are slaves. What do you think?" Li Chengqian was stunned. So many. Although he didn't know if this was the right thing to do, but Yu Shinan and the others hadn't seen this register yet, he didn't dare to say anything. Li Chengqian couldn't help but look at Zhongfeng and asked, "Have you asked Mr. Bo Shi and the others about this?" "Why should I ask them? This academy is mine. I can do whatever I want. As for asking them. Besides, what's wrong with slaves? Don't tell me that slaves aren't people in your eyes. Don't forget that you are also merchants. Besides, I remember that there was a precedent of slaves becoming grand scholars. Besides, look at all the Confucians in the world. How many of them were born poor?" Hearing this, Li Chengqian really didn't have anything to say. However, he still felt that this matter was too hasty. "I feel that we should at least discuss this matter with Mr. Bo Shi and the others. Otherwise, if those Confucians come to cause trouble, even if the Imperial Palace doesn't want to interfere, they can't do anything about it. At that time, White Deer Academy will become the target of public criticism." Zhongfeng hadn't thought of this point. He remembered that when he told the old elementary scholar about this matter, the old elementary scholar didn't say anything. Although he couldn't see through the old elementary scholar, many people seemed to know that the old elementary scholar was a great Confucian scholar. If he didn't say anything, what could Mr. Bo Shi and the others say? Zhongfeng couldn't help but feel frustrated. All right, go ask Mr. Bo Shi. I'll wait here. It's so annoying." When Li Chengqian heard this, he hurriedly walked out of the small wooden house. Once he was out, he ignored Shiva and hurriedly ran in the direction of the waterfall. Shiva, who was bowing to the air, froze in mid-air. After Li Chengqian left, a trace of loneliness flashed across Shiva's eyes. Chapter 828. Yu Shinan was very excited these days. But he also had a headache. Facing the reprimands from countless Confucian scholars, Zhongfeng's letter, and the fact that this kid was not doing his job. He was tinkering with something in the forging workshop all day long. Finally, the matter of the white paper was settled. They didn't see him again. They drank tea, looked at the waterfall in the distance, recited poems, and touched the white paper with a smile. From time to time, they even dipped it in their mouths. Then, they let out a satisfied sigh of admiration. It was as if the white paper was very fragrant. At this moment, in front of the bamboo house, Li Chengqian's voice slowly sounded, and they couldn't help but feel a little surprised. "Student Li Chengqian greets the gentleman." Li Chengqian still paid attention to etiquette. When there was no one around, he had the image of an elegant young master. Yu Shanan and the others nodded in satisfaction. Get up, sit. Li Chengqian didn't stand on ceremony. After sitting down, Yu Shanan asked again, looking at your face, did that kid cause some trouble again? Li Chengqian's face twitched. He wanted to say something, but now he couldn't say anything at all. He hurriedly said, what are you saying? Nothing happened to Fengzi, but... Seeing that Li Chengqian was hemming and hawing, Ouyang glanced at him. He knocked on the small stove and said, if you have something to say, just say it. Don't hem and haw. He was just short of saying, you are the crown prince, you have to pay attention to your royal appearance. Li Chengqian also understood the meaning of their words. He couldn't help but touch his nose and said, just now, the crown prince of Zhenla, Shiva, went up the mountain. Oh, isn't it just a little crown prince? Ouyang was about to say something, but seemed to have thought of something. He looked up at Li Chengqian in surprise and said, don't tell old man that the crown prince also knows Zhongfeng. Hearing this, Sun Simiao, Chu Suiliang, and the others also looked up in surprise and stared at Li Chengqian. As far as he knew, one of them was a slacker in the marketplace who had just left his home and wanted to start a business, while the other was a prince from another clan. How could the two of them have crossed paths? Li Chengqian also recounted the strange experience of the two to everyone in detail. Involuntarily, the faces of Ouyang and the others were incomparably colorful. So this brat is actually a big swindler? I can't be deceived. Of all the things this kid can do, he just has to do it. Alright, no one is perfect. Don't be so harsh on him. After all, this kid is also very good. Sun Simiao hurriedly stood up to smooth things over. Only then did they stop criticizing Zhongfeng. Sun Simiao then asked, then this time, did Shiwa come up the mountain because of Zhenla being surrounded? If it's really just for this, it's fine. Li Chengqian said with a wry smile, this kid has been wandering around Chang'an City for 10 days. During these 10 days, he did nothing but check all the things that Fengzi made. He even squatted at the foot of the mountain for a long time. This time, he could come up the mountain probably because of my father's idea. And as soon as he came up the mountain, he wanted to enter the academy to study. Bam! Hearing this, the small spoon in Ouyang hand shook and fell on the teapot. In an instant, the delicate handle of the teapot was instantly smashed. You said, he wants to enter the academy to study? Finally, Ouyang and the others reacted. The next moment, they could not help but ask in unison in horror, that kid said so? Did he agree? After asking 2 questions in a row, Li Chengqian could not help but say in his heart, as expected. This was not only against the rules, but also against the laws of the Great Tang. Su Rian had said that Zhongfeng had broken the rules, but the concept that those who were not of the same race were bound to have different hearts still did not allow them to do anything that exceeded common sense. In their view, if an outsider wanted to learn the information of the Han people, what was the difference between that and stealing? At this time, what they were most concerned about was whether Zhongfeng had agreed. Once this kid agreed, then, you said it all. Did that bastard Zhongfeng agree? Ouyang Xiu did not have time to care about the teapot that had accompanied him for 10 years and asked hurriedly. This was related to their reputation. If this brat really agreed, then all of their reputations would be ruined here. On the contrary, Li Chengqian was extremely calm. Seeing that they were anxious, he said, gentlemen, don't be anxious. This matter has been temporarily suppressed by me, and I'm waiting for you to discuss it. Then what are you waiting for? Let's go, let's go. Hearing this, Ouyang hurriedly got up and walked out with his hands behind his back. Seeing this, Yu Shanan and the others hurriedly put away the paper in their hands and followed closely behind Ouyang. Seeing this, Li Chengqian heaved a deep sigh of relief. I don't know what father is thinking. What should we do now? Li Chengqian sighed and helped Ouyang turn off the fire in the stove. Then, he hurriedly followed the others. At the same time, at the gate of Isin pastry shop in Chang'an's Tonghui Lane, the old scholar drove a carriage that belonged to Chang'an University, carrying Jingshu, and slowly appeared at the gate of Zhong Mansion. Behind this carriage was a carriage with a shed and 3 handcarts full of goods. At the gate of Zhong Mansion, the maid Xiao Kui, who had been waiting for a long time, hurriedly waved her small hands. "Miss, we're here. Let's go, let's go." Following Xiao Kui's call. In the next moment, from the side gate of Zhong Mansion, 7 or 8 carriages came out one after another, carrying large and small boxes, bedding, porcelain, calligraphy, and other things. When the old scholar's carriage stopped, they appeared at the gate of Zhong Mansion. Obviously, they had been waiting for a long time. In the carriage, Jingshu lifted the curtain and took a look. She called Zhong Yuyao and the 2 girls got into the same carriage. The old scholar had retired gloriously. He threw the reins to the servant of Zhong Mansion and got into a carriage himself. Then, he waved his hand and said, "Let's go to Xiao Mountain." Chapter 829. On the mountain. As soon as Yu Shanan and the others entered Zhong Feng's living room, they didn't care about the fatally attractive cigarettes anymore. As soon as they sat down, they asked, "Kid, is that person outside the door the Crown Prince of Zhenla?" "Yes, it's him." But now, hearing this, Ouyang Zun slammed the table and said lightly, "I don't care what business you have, but old man won't allow him to go up the mountain." Zhong Feng's eyes almost popped out. What's wrong with that? Isn't he just a student? He's not a slave or a merchant, he's a proper prince. If we reject him, it'll damage our academy's reputation. Zhong Feng argued. What a joke, with him, Shiva, there wouldn't be anyone on the mountain. It was just an extra pair of chopsticks. The most important thing was that if he could teach him, he would have an inexhaustible little treasury. How could Zhong Feng bear to let this little treasury slip away under his nose? Besides, the other party had already agreed to so many things. If he were to reject them now, wouldn't it mean that everything he said before would be in vain? Wasn't this a joke? Laro Tsu worked for nothing and had to fork out money to play with them. When Laro Tsu ran out of money, wouldn't they just leave? Respected teachers, there's a saying in Confucius and Mencius, there's no distinction between nobility and lowliness, and there's no distinction between learning. Old man Kong even said that there's no discrimination in education. I've already mentioned this before. Moreover, Li Yuan from White Deer College simply followed old man Kong's teachings. I don't know what wrong I've done, but I hope that respected teachers can enlighten me. Ouyang Zun was choked by Zhong Feng and was speechless for a long time. His face was flushed red, obviously angered by Zhong Feng. When Yu Shanan saw this, he quickly patted Ouyang Zun's shoulder and said, "Kid, what you said is right. However, I think you should know what this distinctionless education means. Then let me ask you, do you understand that those who are not of our race have different intentions? It's your business to pass on the knowledge in your head to the students you teach. After all, it's a benefit to the Tang dynasty. We're happy to help you. But now, it's obviously impossible for you to pass it on to outsiders. If you say this in 10 or 20 years, the old man won't even care about you. I believe that even if you don't say it, the emperor will issue such a decree. But not now. Look at your academy." Yu Shanan pointed at the door and said with a serious face, "The academy hasn't even opened yet, and you've already brought in an outsider. What do you think the others in the academy will think? What will happen to the people watching this place? Do you want to bear the crime of betraying the clan?" Zhong Feng's eyelids twitched. How could this have anything to do with betraying the clan? Do you really think that I, Zhong Feng, have never seen the world? This time, Prince Zhenla is here. I don't know what he's here for. He's just here to be a minister. If all the ministers are so stingy, it's really hard for them to be successful. Zhong Feng also understood their thoughts. However, if they were all so selfish, how could the Tang dynasty flourish? Respected teachers, I feel that you're exaggerating a little. Actually, this matter isn't as serious as you've described it to be. Is this not serious? Ouyang Zun's hot temper rose again. He stood up with a swoosh and stared at Zhong Feng. However, Zhong Feng ignored him and said, "Trust me, teacher. Calm down first. Can you let me say 1, 2, 3, and then you can think about it? Trust me. Calm down first. Let's see what this guy has to say. How about it?" Yu Shanan and Sun Simiao hurriedly tried to persuade him as well. A moment later, Ouyang Zun angrily said, "If you want to say it, then say it quickly." Hearing this, Zhongfeng said, "In fact, you should have seen that the Tang dynasty is getting stronger day by day. Previously, countries as strong as the Turks can only play tricks to test the Tang dynasty. And this little one feels that this sort of probing will continue for a very, very long time. Even Tibet has submitted to become a vassal of my great Tang, so what of the surrounding small countries? For example, Goguryeo, Shui, Hui, and so on. For example, it's like a bandit's nest. Does the bandit leader only care about his own pleasure and not? Forget it. I'll change the metaphor." Zhongfeng shrunk his neck under Ouyang Zun's murderous gaze and hurriedly changed the topic. Take a wolf pack for example. The strength of a wolf pack does not represent the strength of the entire wolf pack. The strength of a wolf pack depends on how the wolf king distributes the food equally. If the wolf king in the wolf pack only cares about itself, then the wolves around it will become fewer and fewer. In the end, it will be the only one left fighting alone. At that time, even if it sees a bountiful prey, no matter how good the hunting opportunity is, it will only sigh. Although the Tang dynasty is strong now, it is still only temporary. The people who rely on the Tang dynasty all hope to be sheltered and learn something. Then, when they become stronger, the Tang dynasty will get more rewards. In this way, a huge net of interests will be formed. Then, who can defeat the Tang dynasty? Chapter 830. Zhongfeng's mouth flew up and down, and Ouyang Zun was really confused. Sometimes he frowned and thought deeply, and sometimes he gasped. Anyway, he felt that something was wrong. Yu Shenan and the others were the same at this time, but they were slightly better than Ouyang Zun. They could feel that Zhongfeng's mouth could even bring the dead back to life. Li Chengqian, who was standing at the door, was deeply shocked at this time. He felt that what Zhongfeng said now was reasonable, but in the end, he couldn't help but exclaim, "Fengzi, you are talking about the way to govern a country?" As soon as Li Chengqian's voice sounded, Ouyang Zun was instantly shocked and understood. "Fengzi, is what he said true?" Zhongfeng nodded. "You can say that, but these things are all universal. So, Mr. Xin Ben, do you think what I said is right?" Ouyang Zun's face couldn't help but become serious. "National policy, this is national policy. How does this kid know so much?" Ouyang Zun couldn't help but anxiously walk around in the room, with his hands behind his back. After a while, he asked, "Fengzi, I, old man, ask you, this thing, other than here, who else have you told?" Zhongfeng was stunned. "What did you say?" "The national policy you just mentioned. I told you here, and Laro Li and the others also know about it." The matter of the drought in Longyu Road, Li Chengqian interrupted Zhongfeng and said, "Mr. Xin Ben, let me say this. This matter was nothing in their eyes, but in the eyes of these pedantic people, it was the crime of deceiving the emperor. Other than the emperor, who dared, who could talk about national policy? The common people were forbidden to talk about court politics." Although Zhongfeng was considered an idle person at this time, if this spread out, it would be terrible. Therefore, Li Chengqian felt that it would be best to use their identities to speak to these pedantic old fogies. When Li Chengqian saw that they didn't speak, he said, "I'm sure you all know about the matter of Longyu Dao. Although His Majesty has indeed implemented the strategy against the Turks and Tibetans, you may not know that this was calculated by Fengzi long before His Majesty came up with a plan, and at that time, I only knew about it from my father and uncles." Yu Shenan added, "That's right, this kid is not simple. The beer you drink and the fine salt you eat are all made by this kid. Do you believe me?" And Old Man also clarified one more thing. Sun Simiao said with a smile, "The bone-strengthening powder, the insecticide powder that smokes the locusts, and the nourishing porridge on the mountain are all made by this guy. Don't say that I made them. I really can't afford to take the blame." Hiss. Ouyang Zun almost couldn't breathe and fainted. Although he had always heard Yu Shenan talk about this, to be honest, he didn't believe it at all. But now that he heard Zhongfeng talk about national policy again, he was so shocked. After hearing it from others, this kid actually didn't refute. It seemed that these things were all made by this kid. Ouyang Zun quickly gasped for breath, suppressed the shock in his heart, and asked, "Kid, what else haven't you done?" I have so many things that I haven't done. I'm really afraid that I'll send you away if I say it all at once. Thinking of this, Zhong Feng cupped his hands and said, not for the time being. What I want to do most now is to make White Deer College the world's White Deer College. What I said today will be taught in the college in the future, and these things are all in the books I wrote. I know that all of you think that I'm crazy, but I must tell you that I'm not crazy. All of you know just how many people there are in the Great Tang who can read and write. What can these people do? Now the Tang dynasty's scholars are gradually rising rapidly, and the number of businessmen coming to the Tang dynasty is gradually increasing. If this goes on, how many people in the Tang dynasty will be able to do business in the long run? How can we maintain the reputation of the Tang dynasty? Do you want others to laugh at the Tang dynasty and say that everyone in the Tang dynasty is a country bumpkin who can't even read a word? Then if that's the case, won't my great Tang really be laughed at by others, and we won't be able to follow Confucius's admonition? If that's the case, what's the difference between us and those who deceive their masters and destroy their ancestors? They didn't think much of it before. But at this time, when Zhong Feng said this, Yu Shenan and the others suddenly changed their expressions and stood up with a swoosh. Seeing this, Zhong Feng quickly said, "Kid, you're doing this for the benefit of the Tang dynasty. Think about it. Why did I spend so much effort and energy to open the college at all costs? Isn't it all for the Tang dynasty? Once the Tang dynasty becomes powerful, who will dare to bully, humiliate, beat, and scold me? But a powerful and famous clan needs to be built up piece by piece. Just like the college outside, if there is no foundation stone, how can a tall building rise from the ground?" Chapter 831. Zhong Feng's Poisonous Chicken Soup. It directly poisoned everyone present. However, Zhong Feng still did not give up. If he did not persuade these people at this time and make them feel comfortable, he would have to do it. In the future, these people would have to stand up from time to time and pull him back. Zhong Feng could not help but say again, "Actually, I didn't want to do all this. You don't know, but Li Gan knows. I was originally staying in my small tavern and idling away my days peacefully. But it's all because of that Laro Li. He urged me to become an official all day long. I didn't become an official. Later on, listen to what he said, I need to take the imperial examinations. Only the imperial examinations can lead to an official career. I, Zhong Feng, am so handsome, so cute, so resourceful. Even Zhuge Kongming has to call me master. Why would I need these things? This is nothing. I'll take the examinations. I heard from Laro Li that the emperor said that it was just a formality. But this Laro Li is trying to persuade me to open an academy. This, if it's opened, then so be it. Just as I was about to show off my skills, why are there so many obstructions?" Zhong Feng had not been so happy to show off in a long time. While beating down bitter water, he also scolded the few of them. Moreover, he didn't even use a single vulgar word. How could these people be a match for Zhong Feng? Compared to the people of this era, the people of this era did not know how to lie. It could be said that they had not learned how to lie in a roundabout way like Zhong Feng. Therefore, Zhong Feng succeeded at this time. He successfully forced his poisonous chicken soup of the 21st century down their throats. He successfully made the four great Confucians drunk. At this time, Zhong Feng seemed to be a little unsatisfied. He once again told them about the improvements and the innovative idea of the great harmony of the world. Involuntarily, these people instantly entered a state of confusion and could not extricate themselves. However, when Zhong Feng led the topic to shiver in a roundabout way, Yu Shenan and the others came to their senses. "That's not right. Kid, don't try to bewitch us. By the way, what do you mean by the great harmony of the world? Stop quarreling. Old man wants to know what the great harmony of the world means." Ouyang Zun waved his hand and shouted loudly, causing everyone to quieten down. He looked at Zhong Feng with an expression that seemed to say that if Zhong Feng didn't explain himself, he wouldn't let this matter rest. Zhong Feng didn't expect that the old man would still be able to understand the crux of the matter. He could not help sighing and said, "The so-called great harmony of the world means, for example, now you want to eat a kind of food from the Western region, such as the fruit of the Western region. This is basically impossible now. But if I tell you that you only need to tell me, there will be dozens of exquisite specialties of the Western region in front of you in an instant, and it won't cost much. Will you believe it? For example, now you are in Chang'an City. If you want to eat food from all over the world, there will be people delivering it to you in an instant. Even if you want to travel around the world, you can basically go to the place you want to go. This is the great harmony of the world. To put it in layman's terms, the great harmony of the world is the Tang dynasty. It has become a situation where everyone knows that when they see a Tang, they will make way for you with great respect and let you pass. This is the great harmony of the world. In fact, Zhong Feng did not say it correctly. To be honest, he really did not know what the great harmony of the world was. He could only give a general idea. Anyway, the general idea was enough. These people could not understand. Sure enough. Zhong Feng's words once again made Ouyang Zun fall into a long contemplation for a long time. Yu Shan'an took a deep breath and said with a strange look, "Boy, in the end, you just want to say that you want to accept Xwa? Well, more or less. Only by letting more people understand the culture and language of the Tang dynasty, the influence of the Tang dynasty will be more far-reaching. This is a way to have the best of both worlds. Although what you see now is that they have secretly learned the things of the Tang dynasty, their roots are still in our hands. Think about it. 10 years later, all the vassal states around the Tang dynasty will be proud of the Tang dynasty's language, culture, customs, and clothes. Do you think they have secretly learned from us, or what?" Silence. Dead silence. Everyone understood. He said a lot. This was the most important part of this sentence. It was just that they could not imagine a bearded Kunlun slave speaking fluent Guanzhong language and wearing the clothes of the Tang dynasty. What was this? What was this? Zhong Feng was right. The goal of these people in their lives was to maximize the spread of what they had learned, so that their ideas could spread. And to what extent did they achieve in hundreds of years? Although Zhong Feng's approach seemed a little exaggerated, if it was really so, wouldn't it be, at this time? The happiest and most excited person was Li Chengqian. His eyes were full of stars as he looked at Zhong Feng. With a voice that only he could hear, he kept repeating this sentence. "Mine, mine, it's all mine." Chapter 832. Although the old man doesn't know what you want to do, the old man wants to see what you'll do in 3 years. Sun Simiao touched his beard and lit a cigarette with trembling hands. He took a puff and said with a smile, "I know why you asked me to come up the mountain. It's not about the pig, nor is it about this pot of nutritious porridge. You want me to teach you my medical skills on the mountain, right?" Hearing this, Zhong Feng was about to say something. Sun Simiao quickly stopped him. "Don't say anything. If you continue, I'll be so excited that I'll sell myself. You're very bad." "Let me say it." Sun Simiao sighed. With his hands behind his back and a cigarette in his mouth, he looked at the group of old fellows who were in deep thought and said, "Actually, your medical book is somewhat against common sense. Even if I study it in my lifetime, I won't be able to comprehend it in a short time. So, when you gave me the medical book, you already had a plan, right?" Zhong Feng saw that his plan was seen through and laughed shamelessly. "I didn't expect that even this couldn't escape Dr. Sun's eyes. I'm too stupid." "You're very cunning." Sun Simiao scolded angrily. "The old man has always been upright, but he has been led astray by you. From not having a good appetite to not being able to drink and smoke. If you leave now, the old man won't be able to eat anything else. Forget it, you don't have to ask the old man. I'll stay, but you must remember one thing. As long as I need it, no matter what you're doing, you must teach me, such as experimenting on mice." Zhong Feng saw this and almost hugged Sun Simiao and kissed him. "Okay, as long as you need it, even if it's growing flesh and bones, I can teach it to you. When will you stop bragging? Maybe you'll be a first-class official by now." Sun Simiao was speechless and stared at Zhong Feng. He naturally didn't believe in growing flesh and bones. How could there be such a magical thing in this world? "Alright, let's talk about the kid outside first." After Sun Simiao walked around twice, he looked at Li Chengqian and said, "You mean to say that your father agreed to this matter?" After Li Chengqian nodded, Sun Simiao lowered his head and pondered for a moment. Then he patted Yu Shanan and the others on the shoulder and said, "Old friends, the matter of whether we accept Shiva or not has already been decided." The few of them were stunned upon hearing this. Sun Simiao repeated, "Li Gan's father." Sun Simiao emphasized the word father and then continued, "If he didn't agree, would the Li family servants at the foot of the mountain let him go up the mountain? You guys are also digging your own horns." Hearing this, they all nodded. Only then did he come to a realization. In his haste, he had neglected such an important matter. Without the emperor's permission, not to mention this kid, even one of them would not be able to go up the mountain from the side of the Chang and military camp. This was all arranged by the emperor. He wanted to see if Zhongfeng would accept it or not. Thinking of this, the few of them sighed deeply. Rubbing their aching foreheads, they gathered together to discuss for a while. Yu Shanan said, "Fengzi, since this matter is decided by you, old man and the others won't say anything. But what you just said, Li Gan, after this matter, wait for me to finish recording it in a book and keep it in the academy's library." Li Chengqian was dumbfounded. Why was it always him? Zhongfeng had said so much, how could he remember? But since Yu Shanan had spoken, he really did not dare to say anything. He could only say gloomily, "This student understands." Yes, yes. Hearing this, Yu Shanan and the others nodded in satisfaction and said, "You can enter the academy, but you can't break the rules. You can't run away from being a slave. Boy, what do you think?" In the end, Yu Shanan looked deeply at Zhongfeng. Zhongfeng also knew that this might be the biggest compromise, but this was not a matter of one's word. He had to ask for the other party's opinion. "I understand, but Shiva is the crown prince after all. I think we should let him make the decision. What do you think?" What a joke. Shiva was a prince. If news of this spread, the Zhenla king would be furious. The Zhenla royal family would fight Zhongfeng to the death. Zhongfeng did not care whether they agreed or not. He walked straight out of the door and waved at Shiva, who was squatting at the side with absent-minded eyes. After a long while, Shiva finally reacted. After following Zhongfeng into the room, Yu Shanan repeated the matter to Shiva and asked, "Crown Prince Shiva, this is the law of the Tang dynasty. As the crown prince, you should know this, so your decision is." Shiva was very excited. In fact, he had known about this for a long time. However, ever since he knew that Zhongfeng's son had opened an academy here and created so many good things, his mind was filled with Zhongfeng. He was even willing to be a slave. The main thing was that he could learn something that would allow the people of Zhenla to not have a meteoric rise, but at least they would not be bullied by others. At this moment, when he heard Yu Shanan's words, Shiva knelt on the ground with a thud. Student Shiva greets the masters. Yu Shanan and the others were naturally not interested in taking in such a slave. They pointed at Zhongfeng, then rubbed their heads and left. Zhongfeng looked at Shiva and said, "Don't take it to heart. This is only in name. Only then can you stay on the mountain. So, we will do what we are supposed to do. Come, Li Gan. Give me a cigarette. What are you waiting for?" "No. Teacher, since you have taken me as your disciple and servant, then I, Shiva, will naturally be your servant for life." Chapter 833. Finally, this matter was settled. Zhongfeng's mood was very good at this moment. He found Zhu Zi and asked him to bring the smoked meat that had just come out of the pot, as well as a table of good dishes to entertain this rich man. Under Li Chengqian's incredulous gaze, he took out a jar of white wine from his bedroom. "Fengzi, tell your brother the truth. How much wine do you have left?" Li Chengqian cracked. He stared with a pair of bull eyes and asked. Zhongfeng ignored him and said indifferently, "No more, no more. This is the last jar. I left this for brother Shiva." "Oh right, why are you standing here? If you have nothing to do, go out and play." Li Chengqian was very angry, but with Shiva here, he did not dare to beat up Zhongfeng. He could only angrily slam the door and leave. "When there is time, Lao Tzu will definitely tear down your rotten wooden house. This prince wants to see how much wine you have hidden here." Zhongfeng did not care about this. Now that he finally met a rich man in this period of time, how could he not grab onto his thigh? He laughed and poured a cup of wine for Shiva, then said, "Since we parted last time, we haven't seen each other for 3 months, right? It has been 3 months. I didn't expect so many things to happen in these 3 months. In the blink of an eye, you, a guy from the marketplace, actually became the dean. And I, sigh." Shiva drank 3 cups of wine and could not help but feel a little dizzy. When he thought of the things that happened in these 3 months, he could not help but feel sad. Creak. When the two were drinking cup after cup of wine, Li Chengqian pushed open the door with a strange expression. He looked at Zhong Feng and said, "Fengzi, an important person is here. Shiva, do you want to leave?" "Leave what?" "Shiva is now our brother, and also your brother. When have you seen me chasing you away when I have guests?" Li Chengqian's mouth twitched. "Fine, forget it. You're on your own. I have something to do, so I'll go down the mountain first." While talking, Li Chengqian immediately slipped away like there was oil on the soles of his feet. As he walked, he did not forget to say, "Oh right, Iron Bull and the others asked me to tell you that they have also gone to Chang'an to look at the white paper business." Who was it that had come? To be able to frighten these masters to this extent. Zhong Feng didn't mind. He continued to eat and drink with Shiva. When Zhong Feng poured a glass of wine for Shiva and gestured for him to drink, he noticed that Shiva was looking at the door in a daze. "I say, Shiva, what are you looking at? What's outside the door? Who are you?" Before Zhong Feng could finish his sentence, he followed Shiva's gaze and looked at the door. The next moment, Zhong Feng couldn't help but be stunned. He asked an idiotic question. At the door, out of nowhere, a woman wearing a white strapless dress and a fiery red gauze dress had appeared. The woman was very beautiful and charming. The kind that was seductive to the bone. Zhong Feng thought that he had seen many beautiful women. Whether it was the famous female lead of the action movies in the future or something else, he had seen them all. He had even met the #1 beauty in Chang'an, Jingshu, when he came to the Tang dynasty. And that inexplicable fiancé, Zhong Yuyao. Both of them were top beauties, but, at this moment, compared to this woman, there was nothing left of them. The woman's eyes were very big, and the corners of her phoenix eyes were slightly upturned. She had a charm that could devour one's soul. Even Zhong Feng, who had seen many beautiful women, couldn't help but feel a little overwhelmed. Damn, is this a demon? Deji? After looking at the woman for 10 seconds, Zhong Feng finally came back to his senses with a gasp. The woman at the door looked at Zhong Feng with a little surprise. Then, she bowed and said, "Can I go in and have a drink?" "Yes. Yes. Oh my God. This voice." Zhong Feng instantly felt that the blood in his body was boiling. But soon, Zhong Feng knocked into the oil lamp used to light cigarettes. Only then did he come back to his senses. He coughed and stared at Shiva, who was drooling, and said, "Get out. If you have nothing to do, find something to do." After hurriedly chasing Shiva out, Zhong Feng then welcomed the woman in. When the two of them stood together, Zhong Feng was once again stunned. He was 1.8 meters tall, but there were no high heels in this era. This strange woman was actually the same height as him. Zhong Feng took a deep look at the woman's proud place. Then, he obediently retracted his gaze. He poured a glass of wine for the woman and asked, "May I know why you are here?" The moment the question came out, Zhong Feng wanted to slap himself. What an idiotic question. What was wrong with him today? How could he ask such a question? And most importantly, Zhong Feng was shocked to find that his brain short-circuited several times when this woman appeared. Zhong Feng couldn't help but be alarmed. If this woman was sent by someone else to harm him, he would have knelt down by now. Zhong Feng's back was already covered in cold sweat. After taking 2 deep breaths, he returned to normal. As long as he didn't look at her eyes, nothing would happen. What was there to be afraid of? Thinking of this, Zhong Feng then cupped his fist and smiled elegantly. "I haven't asked for your name yet. Sorry for being rude." The woman pursed her lips and smiled. Zhong Feng was so scared that he quickly lowered his head and looked at the wine glass. "My surname is Yu. You can call me Yu. Chapter 834. Yu. What kind of immortal would come up with such a name? Well, the name is really appropriate. Just as Zhong Feng was pondering whether this name had appeared in history, a voice suddenly rang out. At the same time, Yuqi Yu'er was also carefully examining her future husband. At first, when she learned about Zhong Feng's talent, she had fantasized about Zhong Feng's appearance. However, the feeling of being past his prime and seeing through the world of mortals in Zhong Feng's poem made Yuqi Yu'er think that Zhong Feng should be an old man with white hair and eyebrows. However, when Yuqi Baolin and his brother brought her here and stood at the door and saw Zhong Feng, Yuqi Yu'er's heart never stopped beating wildly. Zhong Feng was very handsome, very handsome. He was not like those burly men, nor was he like those pedantic Confucian scholars, whose eyes were full of greed when they saw her. If it weren't for the fact that her uncle was the world-famous Yuqi Gong, she would have been defiled by those men. Fortunately, no one dared to challenge the Yuqi family's authority. Zhong Feng was indeed a little obsessed with her eyes at first. Ever since she became a director, there had never been a man who hadn't been mesmerized by her eyes. However, this Zhong Feng was actually able to recover in the short time it took to drink a cup of tea. Clearly, his heart was very pure. At least in Yuqi Yu'er's opinion, he was very pure and straightforward at this moment, which was the style of a real man. Once again, a good impression of him arose in her heart. Unconsciously, the corners of Yuqi Yu'er's mouth curled up slightly into a beautiful smile. Don't you see the water of the yellow river coming from the sky? Master Center, Dancio, don't stop drinking when you're about to drink. Prince Zhong's poem really makes people yearn for it. I came here from Jiangnan because of this poem, just to see Prince Zhong's real face. Seeing that Yuqi Yu'er took the initiative to change the topic. Zhong Feng was a little flustered. After all, he was plagiarizing someone else's poem. He did not know how Li Bai would look at him in the future. But, K it, why care so much? He, it's good that Miss Yu'er likes it. Oh right, do you smoke? No, drink, let's drink. Zhong Feng's mouth twitched again. Yuqi Yu'er pursed her lips into a smile. Looking at the evasive Zhong Feng, she teased, could it be that there's something shameful on Yu'er's face? Why is Prince Zhong unwilling to even look at Yu'er? Zhong Feng's face darkened. Lao Tzu wanted to see it. But isn't this asking for my life? Zhong Feng let out a hollow laugh. Then, he forced himself to look at Yuqi Yu'er and said, Miss Yu'er, what are you talking about? As he spoke, Zhong Feng stared into Yuqi Yu'er's eyes for 11 seconds. Then, he hurriedly retracted his gaze. Using the excuse of drinking, he heaved a sigh of relief and said, I was rude. This cup of wine is my apology. As he spoke, Zhong Feng raised his head and downed the wine. He pointed at the dishes on the table and said, I heard that Miss Yu'er came from Jiangnan? Yes. Yuqi Yu'er pursed her lips and smiled. If this little girl said that Yu'er came here for young master, would young master believe me? He. Zhong Feng let out a hollow laugh. Like hell I'd believe you. But he only dared to say this in his heart. Miss Yu'er must be joking. What did this little one do to deserve Miss Yu'er's attention? Just because of young master's 11 poems. Hearing this, Zhong Feng said, those are all trivial things that I made up when I had nothing better to do. He. Yuqi Yu'er laughed again. She drank alone and said, then, Prince Zhong, do you know that all the scholars and beauties in Jiangnan are rushing to Chang'an just like Yu'er? As for their purpose, young master naturally knows. Along the way, Yu'er saw that Prince Zhong had single-handedly turned this originally barren Xiao Mountain into such a prosperous place. This is truly a blessing for our Tang dynasty. However, why didn't Prince Zhong continue on the path of poetry? Why did he want to open an academy here to teach and educate people instead? On the way up Xiao Mountain, Yuqi Baolin and his 2 brothers had dragged Cheng Chumo and the others to tell Yuqi Yu'er. They had even dug out what time Zhong Feng went to bed and what size his pants were. All of this had been pulled out from the mouths of Cheng Chumo and the others. Especially after learning about paper and the smelting workshop. Yuqi Yu'er was even more surprised. When she asked again, she saw that Zhong Feng was somewhat absent-minded and felt that it was a bit rude. She couldn't help but purse her lips and smile. Forgive me for my rudeness. I won't disturb you anymore today. Yue hopes that Prince Zhong will do me the honor of reciting a poem with Yue another day. When Zhong Feng heard this, he felt as if he had been pardoned. Miss Yue is too serious. It is this one's fortune to have met such a beautiful person like Miss Yue. As long as Miss Yue comes, I, Zhong Feng, will naturally sweep the bed to welcome you. Will you? Yue covered her mouth and smiled. Her question stumped Zhong Feng. Yue stopped teasing Zhong Feng. She bowed slightly and bid him farewell. However, the moment she turned around, a trace of loneliness flashed through her eyes. In the end, it was because of her seductive eyes. Although Zhong Feng hadn't said anything, she had always felt that there was an unseen abyss between them. However, the loneliness in her eyes only appeared for a moment before disappearing without a trace. When she saw the palanquin appear at the mountain entrance, a smile flashed across her lips. Happiness was to be grasped by oneself, not by charity. A long time after Yue left, Zhong Feng was still staring at the slowly disappearing palanquin. He went to the kitchen and asked Old He and the others, who were dumbfounded, "Old He, have any of you heard of someone called Yue?" But when he thought of this, Zhong Feng thought of another important matter. He asked fiercely, "Who let her up the mountain?" Chapter 835. No one could answer Zhong Feng's question. Because Yue had just arrived in Chang'an yesterday, and then went directly to Yue Mansion. Today, she sat in Yue Mansion's sedan chair and went up the mountain. However, when Zhong Feng saw the sedan chair at the mountain gate, Zhu said, "Brother Feng Zi, Brother Tai Nyo and Brother Yu Lin brought her up the mountain." But it seems that they all know each other, especially Brother Tai Nyo. The way he looked at the girl just now was like the way a man looks at a prostitute at the gate of a brothel. Zhong Feng heard this and glared at him, "Don't talk nonsense." Zhu shrunk his neck and said with grievance, "This is the truth. You can ask them. They all saw it. And these guys definitely have bad intentions." After taking the girl up the mountain, they ran away as if they were fleeing for their lives. Fleeing for their lives? But Zhong Feng thought about it and really believed it. Yue's eyes were really not something an ordinary man could bear. He didn't know what kind of reincarnation of a demon she was. He didn't even remember such a person. It was reasonable to say that such a person should be very famous in history. But now, it seemed that there wasn't even a word or two about her. "Brother Fengzi, you'd better go back first. Look, Miss Zhong and the old scholar are here." When Zhong Feng was breathing and thinking, Zhu's voice surprised Zhong Feng. He looked at the mountain gate again and saw that the sedan chairs had already come up the mountain. He knew the sedan chairs of Chang'an University. Although he didn't know the sedan chairs of Zhong Mansion, he really couldn't find a second one in Chang'an City like little Kui-er's emerald green clothes. Seeing this, Zhong Feng's lungs were about to explode with anger. What the hell were these guys doing? Zhong Feng didn't care about anything else. Looking at the rows of carriages and handcarts, his eyelids twitched, and then he hurried to the mountain gate. When Zhong Feng arrived, the carriage had already stopped in front of Zhong Feng's door. Sedan chairs were not allowed on the mountain, but Zhong Feng's house was only a few hundred steps away from the mountain gate. Moreover, the sedan chair the old scholar was sitting in was from Chang'an University. Everyone on the mountain knew that Chang'an University was also the property of the dean. Naturally, no one dared to block the way. Not to mention the sedan chair of the Zhong Mansion. What a joke! Even little Kui-er, Miss Zhong's personal maid, had come. What did that mean? That meant that the dean's wife was here as well. They dared to stop anyone, but would they dare to stop the dean's wife? Even if they were given 100 guts, no one would dare to do such a thing. "Old Shotsai, why didn't you tell anyone that you were going up the mountain?" When Zhong Feng saw the old elementary scholar get off the carriage from afar, he hurriedly walked over and cupped his fists. The old scholar glanced at Zhong Feng and didn't say anything. Instead, he asked, "What's the matter with that woman who just came down the mountain?" How would Zhong Feng know what was going on? "Well, she's Cheng Tianyu's relative. I don't know what she does either. She just came to sit for a while and then left." The old scholar looked at Zhong Feng suspiciously, but didn't say anything in the end. He pointed at the carriage behind them. Then, He went straight to Zhong Feng's small wooden house. Zhong Feng was stunned. He looked at Zhong Yuyao's carriage, which didn't move for a long time, and felt helpless. You said I was lifting the curtain? It was against the rules. What do you think I should do? Zhong Feng had no choice but to salute the sedan chair. I didn't know that Miss Yuyao and Miss Jingshu would be coming. Zhong Feng didn't go out to meet you. Little Kui Er's small eyes rolled around and looked at the sedan chair with some worry. Then, under her worried eyes, the curtain of the sedan chair was lifted by a slender hand. Needless to say, Zhong Feng knew that this was Jingshu's hand the moment he saw that hand. Zhong Yuyao's hand was fleshy and not so slender. Jingshu greets Prince Zhong. Jingshu lifted the curtain of the sedan chair and bowed. Then, she pulled the red-faced Zhong Yuyao out of the carriage. Miss Yuyao, are you not feeling well? Zhong Feng pretended not to understand and asked, if you're not feeling well, I'll call Dr. Sunday. No. I'm fine, there's no need, Zhong Yuyao hurriedly said, her face turning even redder. The people around them who were watching the show roared with laughter at this time. Zhong Feng was afraid that these people would talk nonsense, so he glared at them. Only then did they disperse in a hubbub. The few of them entered the small wooden house without saying a word. The old scholar sat in front of the table that had not been removed, his face gloomy. Zhong Yuyao could not help but exclaim, tears in her eyes. As for Jingshu, it was only now that she took off her veil. Although her expression was the same, she was staring at the table in a daze. Zhong Feng was a little embarrassed. Well, don't just stand there. Shiwa, quickly call someone to cancel the banquet and change it to another table. Change to what? The old scholar angrily shouted in a low voice, what kind of principal are you? So wasteful and extravagant. Do you want to spread this kind of atmosphere to everyone on the mountain? Zhong Feng was speechless. Sitting was not right, but standing was not right either. Jingshu was still the one who understood the big picture. Mr. Old Self, why, these dishes are basically untouched, which means that young Master Zhong and that girl only sat for a while. Also, look at this cup of wine. Jingshu pointed to the wine cup that Yuchi Yuer had just drunk from and said, there's only a little wine stain at the bottom of the cup, and the dishes are still warm. Don't worry about it. It just so happens that I haven't drunk Prince Zhong's white wine in a long time. Today, I'll borrow Prince Zhong's wine to toast you. Chapter 836. Zhong Feng was so excited that he wanted to hug Jingshu and kiss her. She was too virtuous. If this was the 21st century, try it. If she didn't cry, make a fuss, and threaten to hang herself, you would be secretly happy. How could you ask her to intercede for you? That was something that he didn't even dare to think about. Zhong Feng couldn't help but love the Tang dynasty. It was a man's heaven. The old scholar and Jingshu had known each other for a long time, so he naturally knew what each of them was thinking. Seeing that Jingshu had taken the initiative to help Zhong Feng out of trouble, the old scholar didn't know what else to say. Forget it, forget it. We've been in a hurry all this time. Yu Yao and Jingshu were in a hurry to pack up early in the morning. It's already noon and we haven't eaten anything. Let's just put up with it. Hearing this, Zhong Feng hurriedly shouted, Shiva, where the hell have you been? Hurry up and ask the servants to serve the food. Are you trying to starve us to death? Shiva wanted to cry. Earlier, he had chased him out, and now he was yelling at him. Didn't they say that they were brothers? Why did he still treat him like a servant? Nevertheless, Shiva still ran to the kitchen eagerly. Only then did Zhong Feng wipe off the sweat on his forehead. He shouted in his heart, damn it, I won't do this kind of thing in the future. Stealing food, I really can't do it. After turning around, Zhong Feng returned to his original state. After rearranging the cups and chopsticks with the others, he asked, this time we're going up the mountain, let's stay for a few more days. Chang'an University should be fine, right? The old scholar drank lightly. The academy is fine, but there's an autumn hunt with the Imperial College. It's an activity organized by the Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Appointments. It's going to start in 10 days. This is the first thing we're going to do when we're up the mountain. Our Chang'an University still can't be compared with the Imperial College in terms of reputation and heritage. This time, The Imperial College took the initiative to have a friendly match with Chang'an University. We can't afford to lose. The old man went to look for a Kuju team, but until now, he hasn't found a foreman who is willing to take our place. Kuju. During the Tang dynasty, it had basically formed an industrial chain. Aristocratic families would basically fund a local foreman who specialized in Kuju. When the foreman received the money, he would recruit people who specialized in Kuju to compete with him, regardless of whether he won or lost. Of course, if he won, the aristocratic family would naturally reward him handsomely. However, there weren't many such academy versus academy competitions. Chang'an University was basically filled with those stubborn people from Chang'an. It would be strange if anyone was willing to come. If something went wrong, he would lose his life. If he kicked a certain stubborn person, he might even lose his life at night. Who would dare to come? The old elementary scholar could not help but worry. Zhong Feng frowned when he heard this. There are only 10 days left. Why did you only say so now? Jingshu saw the situation and said, originally, Zhang Xuan's mansion agreed, but the foreman disappeared yesterday for some reason in Chang'an. So, until now, we haven't found anyone who is willing to fight for us. I heard that the foreman and his men are all dead. Who was it? They were targeting him. Zhong Feng didn't even need to think about it. Let me think about it. Let's not talk about it for now. Isn't it just 10 days? After 10 days, I'll form a team. You can do whatever you need to do. At that time, I'd like to see who is the blind person who wants to harm me. Kuju, this thing. Wasn't it just football? Although Zhong Feng's football level was similar to that of the national football team, it was different in the Tang dynasty. 10 days was a piece of cake for him. The old elementary scholar seemed to have known that Zhong Feng could handle this matter. Hearing this, he didn't say anything and just focused on eating and drinking. After a while, several bowls of fragrant porridge were placed on the table. The old elementary scholar wrapped the porridge with pieces of fat streaky pork and ate and drank, ignoring Zhong Feng. Zhong Feng smiled and said, "Slow down, old elementary scholar. No one is going to fight with you. I still have things to do." As the old scholar ate and drank, he said, "The second thing is about the cigarettes. It's best to let the people of Zhong Mansion handle it for you. After all, they're family, so don't worry about their safety. As for your brothers, you'd better not mess around with them. That woman just now doesn't look like a good person, so don't mess around with her." What could Zhong Feng say? He could only nod like a chicken pecking rice. Seeing this, the old elementary scholar nodded and wiped his mouth. After drinking the wine in the cup in one gulp, he said, "The third thing this time is also the most important thing. I've talked to your father-in-law. You've seen the dozens of big and small carts outside the door, haven't you?" Zhong Feng was a little confused, but he still nodded. The old elementary scholar continued, "Later, you can ask someone to move them into your house. Just now, I heard that your villa at the foot of the mountain is about to be repaired. Tomorrow, the old village chief will send someone to tidy up and move these things in for you. No, you should at least let me know what's in these boxes, right? These are the soft clothes of Yu Yao and Jingshu. Shouldn't you put them in someone else's house instead of yours?" Zhong Feng was shocked when he heard this. "Wait, old elementary scholar, wait. What do you mean?" The old elementary scholar seemed to still be immersed in Yuchi Yuer's anger and ignored Zhong Feng. He pointed at Zhong Yuyao and Jingshu and said, "I've brought them here. You don't have any good skills, but your bad habits are increasing day by day. What did you change to when you made a scene in Swallow Descent Tower? There are so many eyes on this mountain watching. Even if you're not embarrassed, I still want to save some face. It just so happens that Jingshu is a sensible person and will help you settle things outside. Yu Yao is meticulous and will wash your clothes and comb your hair every day. All right, that's all. Old man, I'm leaving." Chapter 837. Zhong Feng was on the verge of breaking down. What kind of show was this? Even if he had made a mistake, shouldn't he at least tell him what he had done wrong? Just because he said no, he threw 2 girls away? Was this appropriate? Was there any justice in this? Zhong Feng hurriedly stopped the old scholar from standing up and asked, "Old scholar, what are you playing at?" This. You see, I'm so busy that I can't wait to use one day as two. And you see, we don't have anything to do with each other. Do you think it's appropriate for us to live together? That's not proper. You still know it's improper. The old scholar sat down with a gloomy face. He took a cigarette from Zhong Feng's ear and lit it. He said, "Look at what you've done. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by the people on the mountain? Aren't you afraid of being cursed by all the scholars? Now you're the director and a great scholar. You're no longer the carefree person you used to be. Whatever you do, you have to think about the consequences. I won't ask who that girl is, but don't worry. Now you can walk around the mountain and listen. Is this something that a director dares to do? I'm innocent. I'm King innocent. Since when have I been flirting with girls? That's right. Even if I flirt, it doesn't matter, right? What's wrong with a talent matching a beauty? And that girl just now, where the hell did she come from?" Zhong Feng felt wronged in his heart. But he couldn't say it out loud. "Old scholar, if I say that I really don't know what's going on with that girl just now, would you believe me?" The old scholar took a puff and glanced at Zhong Feng. "It doesn't matter if I believe you or not, but you're now engaged and you fell in love with Jingshu at first sight. I don't care about that, but how do you expect them to live in Chang'an from now on? Originally, I saw that you were alone on the mountain and were instigated to do bad things by your bad friends, so I was wondering if I should let them come up to accompany you. But today, I see that you're living a very good life. In short, do you want them to stay or not?" It seemed that the old scholar was really angry. Zhong Feng was also a little nervous. After weighing the pros and cons for a long time, he pinched his nose and said, "Then. All right." Seeing Zhong Feng's reluctance, the old scholar didn't bother to say anything more. "I'll go look for Mr. Bo Shu and the others. I'll come back tomorrow." As he spoke, the old scholar pretended to leave, but when he reached the door, he turned back and said, "You really don't know what happened to that woman?" Zhong Feng shrugged. "Do you think I would have this expression if I knew him?" Hearing this, the old scholar's face turned serious. "I'll check it for you. Don't worry about it for now." As he spoke, the old elementary scholar left with a gloomy expression. What the old scholar hated the most in his life were those greedy and extravagant debauchees. He was also an extremely pedantic person. Otherwise, he would not have been able to live in his shackles for as long as 10 years. When he was going up the mountain, he heard the people in Tonghui Lane telling him that there was a seductive woman who came up the mountain to look for Zhong Feng. He couldn't help but be furious. But now that he was sure that Zhong Feng did not know this woman, the old scholar became even more worried and angry. Was someone trying to use a honey trap on him? Zhong Feng's current achievements were a stumbling block in the eyes of many people. Many people wanted his life. He knew this. After all, in the previous dynasty, he saw with his own eyes the tragic story of Emperor Yang of Sui, who was incomparably valiant, but in the end, he fell into the depths of the tragic story of Emperor Yang of Sui. He didn't want to see Zhong Feng follow in his footsteps. Who on earth was targeting Zhong Feng? After the old scholar left, the atmosphere in the room suddenly became extremely awkward. Jingshu hid her hands in her embroidered robe and Zhong Yuyao lowered her head, like a girl who had done something wrong and was waiting to be reprimanded. Zhong Feng's head was about to explode. Behind Zhong Yuyao, Kui who was dressed in emerald green, squatted on the ground. Her hand reached out from under Zhong Yuyao's armpit, grabbed a plate of braised meat from the table, and ate it like a cow. Other than the sound of Kui chewing, the room was strangely quiet. Zhong Feng finally couldn't help but cough and ask, "Well, did Uncle Zhong say anything when you came up the mountain this time?" "No. Father asked me to serve my husband, Prince Zhong well." Zhong Feng's head exploded when he heard this. She was really planning to settle down on the mountain. Forcing a marriage to this extent was simply unheard of. Would Laro Tzu run away? Zhong Feng looked at Zhong Yuyao painfully, then looked at Jingshu. Jingshu seemed to have sensed it. Without waiting for Zhong Feng to ask, she said, "I didn't have anything to do at the foot of the mountain, so I accompanied Sister Yuyao up the mountain." Sister Yuyao, oh my God. Laro Tzu shouldn't have replied to Zhong Yuyao's letter. Back then, I really shouldn't have gone to Swallow Descent building with those few bastard. Damn it, is this retribution? Is it wrong to be handsome? Chapter 838. Zhong Feng finally managed to escape from the wooden house. He squatted in the kitchen and refused to go out. While smoking, he waited for Cheng Chumo and the others. Fengzi, you can't do this. Although you haven't married them yet, Miss Zhong and Miss Jingshu are still your women. Is it appropriate for you to ignore them like this? Yes, Fengzi, if you do this, those old things will scold you again. Go back. Under the persuasion of old He and Zheng Tufu, Zhong Feng could only return to the study room. He looked around the wooden house. This was the first house he saw when he first entered Xiao Mountain. Zhong Feng was reluctant to tear it down. If he wanted to expand it now, it would be too late. There were only 3 rooms in the wooden house. One was Zhong Feng's bedroom. The other was the room of Chen Tianyu and the others. Now that they had slipped away and found a place to live, it was basically Zhong Feng's material warehouse. The last room was Zhong Feng's secret warehouse. There were 3 locks on the door, and it was guarded by Jiao Khan. Now that Jiao Khan had slipped away, the house was empty. It was obviously impossible for people to live there. As for Chen Tianyu and the others' house, now it seemed that he could only arrange for the 2 women to live there. As for the villa, it hadn't been painted yet. How could he live there? Besides, even if he painted it, it would take a month to dry it. Otherwise, he didn't want to suffer from rheumatism so early. Thinking of this, Zhong Feng pointed to the room on the right side of the living room and said, "Little Kui after eating, go out and ask old He to find people to move Miss Zhong and the others' things into that room. You can squeeze in there for the time being. Tomorrow, I will find people to hurry up and build a house. Prince Zhong, don't trouble yourself. This place is very good. It's fine as long as we can live here." Zhong Yuyao glanced in the direction of Zhong Feng's finger and hurriedly said. After she finished speaking, she realized that Zhong Feng lived next door. She couldn't help but blush like a red egg. Zhong Feng was bored again. He could only rub his nose embarrassedly and say, "Since that's the case, I have some matters to attend to first. You can leave the matters here to that purple-robed youth. Prince Zhong, you can leave if you have something to do. We will take care of the matters here." Jingshu was still so gentle and elegant, but when she walked to the door, Zhong Feng didn't know what to do. Once he went out, they would definitely gossip about him. His head hurt. But on second thought, Zhong Feng instantly figured it out. If the woman wasn't afraid, why would a man like him be afraid? Thinking of this, Zhong Feng was no longer embarrassed. Under Jingshu's surprised gaze, Zhong Feng coughed and said, "I just had some inspiration now. I'll go inside and think about a new poem. You guys go ahead. If you have nothing to do, you can go to the mountain. After all, this place can be considered half a home in the future." After Zhong Feng finished speaking, he closed the door. Seeing this, Jingshu couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. How could she not see Zhong Feng's embarrassment? But after all, she was more intelligent. With a little thought, she could understand the meaning behind it. "Sister Jingshu," Jingshu patted Zhong Yuyao's hand, indicating that she didn't need to worry. Then, she walked out of Zhong Feng's study with Zhong Yuyao and said, "Prince Zhong is busy now. We don't want to disturb him." Zhong Yuyao opened her mouth to say something, but after hesitating for a long time, she didn't say anything. She could only sit at the door with Jingshu and watch the people of Tonghui Square happily fighting to move things for them. At this time, Jingshu recalled what had just happened. At the beginning, she really didn't want to stay. After all, Zhong Feng was more embarrassed. It could be seen from just now. But she couldn't get that woman's voice out of her mind. This was really what the old scholar said. Zhong Feng's excellence was beyond doubt. She was very clear that outstanding people would never lack women around them. But when Zhong Feng turned around, she saw a trace of concern in Zhong Feng's eyes. This was the reason why Jingshu chose to stay. After sitting for a while, Steamed Bun came over with a lot of snacks. Jingshu touched Steamed Bun's head and said, "I heard that Mr. Bo Shi and the others are on the mountain. Let's go and visit them." Hearing this, Zhong Yuyao finally remembered the important matter at hand. She hurriedly rummaged through the chests and cupboards and took out the gifts that she had prepared beforehand. Only then did the four of them slowly walk towards the back of the mountain under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Shwa was already stunned. No matter if it was the fox-like woman he first saw, or the two now, they were all the best in the world. At least in Zhenla, he really couldn't find a woman as beautiful as them. Most importantly, these three women were Zhongfeng's women. This was the most shocking thing for Shwa. After seeing them leave, Shwa sighed and looked at Zhongfeng's room. He took out a small book and wrote something on it. Then, his eyes became even more passionate. Is this the attractiveness that the imperial tutor talked about? Brother Zhong is indeed Brother Zhong. If I can stay by his side for a long time, then I can also get this attractiveness, then. Thinking of this, Shwa squatted in a corner and laughed foolishly. Chapter 839. How was Zhongfeng composing a poem at this moment? He hid at the door and watched Jingshu leave with some boxes through the crack of the door. Only then did he heave a deep sigh of relief. What kind of sin did he commit? Zhongfeng sighed again. He lit a cigarette and walked to the door. Looking at Shiva, who was laughing foolishly, Zhongfeng rolled his eyes and went back to his room. Then, he simply fell asleep. And when Zhongfeng fell asleep, Yi Zichen was stunned. At the foot of the mountain, in an inn with the same name as the Yulai Inn in Chang'an City, Cheng Chumo, Li Chengqian, and the others were pacing back and forth anxiously, while Yuchi Baochi was squatting at the door and smoking. His face was blue and purple. Obviously, he had been beaten up. Wei Shuyu and Zhong Sun were playing poker without a care in the world. They didn't even think about what happened to Zhongfeng. As for this, there were naturally people who were worried. After all, they weren't the ones who brought him up. Tap, tap, tap. Suddenly, there were hurried footsteps on the wooden stairs. Li Chengqian and Cheng Chumo couldn't help but be startled. They hurriedly looked at the door. Seeing the person, Li Chengqian asked, "How's the situation on the mountain? Did a fight break out? Who won? Is Fengzi okay?" Seeing this, the person hurriedly said, "Young Master Li, nothing happened on the mountain. That woman has already gone down the mountain. She didn't have any entanglement with Jingshu and the others." Hearing this, Li Chengqian heaved a deep sigh of relief. It was good that nothing happened. If something had happened, it would be a big deal. Thinking of this, Li Chengqian was furious. He kicked Yuchi Baochi hard and said, "It's all your fault. Your father is an old bastard, and you're following him. Who is that? That's your aunt. How dare you trick your aunt like this? Well, what if it worked? Fengzi isn't married. Besides, which man doesn't have multiple wives? What did I do wrong?" Yuchi Baochi muttered. Li Chengqian became even angrier when he heard this. "Tell me, one is your aunt, the other is Fengzi. How are we going to teach them in the future? What's his name? Your father, that old bastard, didn't think of this. Are you following in his footsteps? That's right. Why are you following suit?" Cheng Chumo also took the opportunity to slap him. Li Chengqian was so angry that he pointed at Cheng Chumo's nose and said, "This is all your rotten idea. Don't think that Laro Tsu doesn't know that Yuchi Baochi wouldn't do something like this. Which eye of yours saw me do it?" Cheng Chumo could not take it anymore. Li Chengqian didn't say anything. He only snorted. Cheng Chumo didn't say anything. He knew that it was useless to say anything. "Do you know the consequences if my father finds out about this? Who was old Yu? Who was Fengzi? If you let someone spread rumors about you, Tai Nyo, you'll be harming old Yu's family, do you know that?" Cheng Chumo, Zhong Sun, and the others were shocked when they heard this. It really was like that. Yuchi Gong held an important position, and many people in the imperial court didn't like him. However, he had always been straightforward and didn't have any tricks up his sleeves. This saved the emperor from liking him. If Yuchi Gong married his younger sister to Zhongfeng in the past, it wouldn't be a big deal. Everyone would just chuckle. But now, Fengzi had mastered such important military skills, and he even had amazing methods of training soldiers. At this time, it was hard not to think too much about it. This was what Li Chengqian was most worried about. If someone in the imperial court submitted a memorial, Yuchi Gong would be in danger. Even the emperor wouldn't be able to protect him. At this time, Cheng Chumo also became anxious. Then, what's wrong with men and women getting married when they're of age? Can't Fengzi get married? Uncle Yu isn't wrong. Yes, they aren't wrong, but if you were in the past, no one would be wrong. However, the wrong thing is that the borders are in chaos now, and it's inevitable that there will be unrest in the imperial court. If someone wants to use this against you, then… Cheng Chumo and Yuchi Baochi turned pale with fright when they heard this. Even Wei Shuyu and Yu Baochi's expressions turned serious. What do we do? Then what do we do now? Li Chengqian pondered for a while, then looked at the gradually darkening sky. He muttered, "Let's go up the mountain. Let's go see how Fengzi is doing with her first." When they heard this, how could they dare to delay? They hurriedly packed up and ran up the mountain. Yuchi Yu had left long ago. After all, her identity was special, and the longer she stayed on the mountain, the more rumors there would be. She wasn't a flower vase, so she naturally knew what was going on. Thus, she left as soon as she went down the mountain. This was also what made Li Chengqian and the others anxious. No one knew what had happened in the end, or what they had talked about. To be honest, Li Chengqian and the others had slept with many women, but Yuchi Yu's eyes still made them lose their minds the moment they saw them. They were very worried about Zhong Feng's self-control. This kid was still a fledgling. His self-control towards this thing was, they were very nervous. If Zhong Feng couldn't control himself, then it would be a big problem. Previously, Li Chengqian thought that Yu Qigong was just joking about introducing his sister to Zhong Feng. Who would have thought that Yu Qigong was actually serious about it? This was simply, he was playing with fire. Li Chengqian anxiously went up the mountain with Cheng Chumo and the others. At this time, lanterns and bonfires were already lit on the mountain. All the craftsmen and students had entered their own small worlds. Other than the patrolling imperial guards disguised as guards, there was basically no one else to be seen. They searched for a while and came to Zhong Feng's door. Looking at the flickering candlelight and Jingshu playing the zither alone in the candlelight, they were troubled. If they went in directly, that wouldn't do. If they waited like this, how long would they have to wait? Li Chengqian couldn't help but kick Cheng Chumo and say, "Go get Fengzi for me." "I'm not going." "Are you going or not?" Cheng Chumo poked his head out to look at Jingshu in the room, then retracted his head. "I'm not going." "Who's outside?" At this time, Jingshu, who was playing the zither, seemed to be startled by Cheng Chumo's voice. They had no choice but to stand up. "Miss Jingshu, it's me, Li Chengqian." Jingshu was slightly surprised. "So it's young Master Li. It's so late. Are you looking for Prince Zhong? He hasn't gone out since this afternoon. He's composing a poem. When he wakes up, I'll send someone to send you a message." Composing a poem? If this kid wasn't drunk, how could he compose a poem? However, when he stood up, everything in the room entered his eyes. Other than Jingshu, Steamed Bun and Little Kui were looking at Jingshu playing the zither with their chins in their hands. Only the young lady of the Zhong mansion, Zhong Yuyao, was missing. They couldn't help but be surprised. Could it be that this kid, ahem? Just as Li Chengqian cupped his fists and was about to leave, Zhong Feng coughed. "What's the matter?" Seeing Zhong Feng speak, Li Chengqian shouted, "There's a situation in the paper mill at the foot of the mountain. Quickly come out and investigate." "What?" "Wait, I'm coming now." A moment later, Zhong Feng put on his outer robe and said a few words to Jingshu before leaving the room. After they walked for a while, they stopped at a construction site. Cheng Chumo lay on Zhong Feng's shoulder and sniffed left and right. Zhong Feng was so angry that he wanted to beat him. "Cheng Tianyu, are you AF** king dog?" Cheng Chumo smiled and didn't refute. "Fengzi, you're awesome. How's spring night?" It would have been better if he didn't say it. Once he said it, Zhong Feng instantly became angry. He grabbed Cheng Chumo's collar and punched his fat face. "I'll F** king spring night your uncle. Laro Tsu will beat you to death, you bastard." Chapter 840. After Zhong Feng gave Cheng Chumo a good beating, his anger gradually subsided a lot. Zhong Feng was speechless. Apart from the first punch on Cheng Chumo's face, which had some effect, he didn't seem to hurt Cheng Chumo at all. In the end, Zhong Feng could only give up. He sat on the stone, panting, and asked, who on earth was that woman in the afternoon? How could Cheng Chumo dare to tell him? If he did, wouldn't Fengzi really go crazy? He kicked Yuchi Baochi and said, ask him. He knows better than me. Zhong Feng looked at Cheng Chumo suspiciously, but Cheng Chumo didn't dare to tell him. If he did, he might get beaten up. Although he wasn't afraid of Zhong Feng, he was afraid of the 4 Confucians. If those fellows were to find out about this, his father might climb up the mountain to help him loosen his bones before he could even return home. At the thought of this, Cheng Chumo refused to tell him. He kept pointing at Yuchi Baolin. Yuchi Baolin wanted to cry. If I tell you, can you not beat me up? Zhong Feng looked over the bonfire. This guy's face was bruised. Obviously, he had been beaten up. He said angrily, tell me, that's my aunt. Zhong Feng was completely stunned. He stared at Yuchi Baochi for a long time before he came to his senses. He asked in a trembling voice, You say it again. Who is she? My aunt. Buzz. Yuchi Gong's big flat face and Yu Er's peerless beauty instantly appeared in Zhong Feng's mind. Even if the Photoshop guru of the later generation forced him to his death, it would still be difficult for him to Photoshop these 2 people into the same appearance. How were they similar? Wasn't this a joke? Were they born by their mothers? A fairy and a yaksha. Oh my god. Was there really such a weirdo? Fengzi, don't think too much. Captain, Yu and Old Yu are distant relatives. As the daughter of Old Yu's distant uncle, she indeed doesn't look like one. But don't worry, I can guarantee that Miss Yu is really only 18 years old this year. Without waiting for Li Chengqian to speak, Zhong Feng waved his hand and moaned, don't say anything. Let me digest this. Zhong Feng was completely confused. Didn't he just cheat Old Yu out of a few things? Was it necessary? Who asked him to choke her and lift her collar when they met for the first time? Who wouldn't get angry if they were in his shoes? Last time, he remembered that Old Yu had mentioned this when he was drunk. He had just taken it as a joke. But now, it seemed that this wasn't a joke at all. This was serious. Although Yu was indeed very beautiful, Zhong Feng still did not want to die from exhaustion. Under those eyes, Zhong Feng always felt that his brain couldn't turn around. He had no control at all. This made him extremely unhappy. It was far from the peace he felt when he was with Jingshu and Zhong Yuyao. Most importantly, Zhong Feng did not want to provoke such a woman. Such a woman, whether in history or in reality, was an extremely wild character. He had to stay as far away from this kind of person as he could. If he got entangled with her, he wouldn't be able to rest for the rest of his life. Zhong Feng really didn't want to be a bootlicker. Moreover, what about this relationship? Although at this time, Old Yu and Lao Li of Huayu called each other brothers, and so did their son, it didn't matter. If they became even closer, wouldn't it be a mess? From now on, should he call Old Yu brother? Brother-in-law? What about these guys? Zhong Feng instantly had a headache. Damn it, forget it, he'd better take one step at a time. At this time, Zhong Feng really understood why the old scholar was so angry just now. He also felt that the old scholar was so cute. At the critical moment, he sent Zhong Yuyao and Jingshu, the 2 shields, to the mountain. Otherwise, Zhong Feng really didn't know what would happen tonight. Thinking of this, Zhong Feng trembled a little and lit a cigarette. At the same time, he stared at Yuchi Baochi with great anger. Get down the mountain now. If your father doesn't come and tell me something, we won't see each other for the rest of our lives. Yuchi Baochi was shocked when he heard that. Fengzi, we don't have to do this. This is all my damn father's doing. It has nothing to do with me. Get out. Zhong Feng was extremely irritated. I really don't know what your father is thinking. How could he do such a stupid thing? Is he kidding? Get out, and Tainyo, you guys. From now on, until I'm not angry anymore, on the mountain. Cheng Chumo and the others stared at Zhong Feng with great fear. Especially after Zhong Feng gasped for breath, they became even more nervous. Fengzi, can you say it all in one breath? Li Chengqian asked with great concern. Zhongfeng really didn't know what to ask these guys to do. It would be embarrassing to dig up feces, but would they obediently carry bricks? After thinking for a while, Zhongfeng finally patted his head and pointed in the direction of the waterfall. I'll give you until the Mid-Autumn Festival. No matter what method you have, under the condition that you don't use the mountain labor, you have to draw water from the waterfall to me. Also, you have to level out a piece of land in the grassland behind the mountain. You have to build a drill ground with cement. Are you crazy? Chapter 841. Zhongfeng didn't care what method these people used. He didn't care about their pleas and slipped away, leaving behind a few people with a headache looking at each other. Brother Qian, what do we do now? Counting the days, there are only 21 days until mid-autumn. How can we draw the water from the waterfall in such a short time? It's impossible. Cheng Chumo complained without tears. Even if thousands of craftsmen across Xiao Mountain were mobilized, it would still take 3 miles to reach the mountain gate from the waterfall. Additionally, there was a hollow between the mountain on the other side of the waterfall and the mountain gate. How could they draw the water here? This was simply a fantasy story. And that thatched pond, what could they do after flattening it? Although the thatched swamp was located between their dormitory area and the teaching building, it was not planned to be their living area. Wasn't it Feng Zi who allowed them to keep the thatched swamp? What kind of madness was this? They wanted to flatten it. Although flattening the thatched pond was fine, but the water, it was simply a dream. The most important thing was that this batch wasn't allowed to use the people on the mountain. What should they do? Could it be that they had to go to the barracks to call for reinforcements? I think, this is Feng Zi's test for us. At this time, Du Go, who was smoking, said, "Do you guys still remember the water flow principle that Zhongfeng told us before?" Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Only then did they start to think carefully. But at this time, only Du Go and Li Chengqian could think of something. Other than them, how could they remember these things? They were originally just idling around, waiting for Zhongfeng's military knowledge. As for the things that Zhongfeng was talking about, they had a headache. What air resistance? What water pressure? How could they know what these things were? If they wanted to know, they might as well jump into the water and swim around. Then they would know everything. Li Chengqian looked around and couldn't help but be speechless. Da Bing, quickly go and wake up Hao Chujun and the others. Tell them to immediately go to our room. Tai Nyo and the others are trash. They won't be able to help at all. Li Chengqian finally slapped his thigh. Since Zhongfeng did not allow them to use the laborus on the mountain, Hao Chujun and the others could not. They were students, and he had a feeling that Zhongfeng was serious this time. If they didn't handle this matter well, their credits for this year would be gone. Du Go did not hesitate and gave Cheng Chumo and the others a kick. The few of them hastily took on the role of lackeys. There was nothing they could do. They really did not understand this stuff. If they were asked to beat someone up or use brute force, they would be able to do it. As for using their brains, forget it. Cheng Chumo and Du Go walked back while pondering about this matter. From the water wheel to the bridge, they had thought about it, but they couldn't complete it within 20 days, not to mention the removal of the large swath of grass. The two of them couldn't help but hold the lantern and silently return to their small wooden hut, quietly waiting. In fact, Zhongfeng had already predicted that these few people would not be able to do it. Returning to the small wooden hut, the joy on his face first made Jingshu surprised. Then she asked, "Prince Zhong, did you think of some evil move again?" "What evil move?" Zhongfeng hurriedly quibbled. Jingshu covered her mouth and laughed. "This matter, it is very obvious that those few people are playing tricks on you. According to your temper in the past, if you don't teach them a lesson, then it would not be Prince Zhong's character." Zhongfeng somewhat embarrassedly looked up and down at Jingshu. It is better for girls not to be too smart, especially not to guess blindly. Otherwise, there will be trouble. Jingshu did not feel embarrassed. She looked at Zhongfeng and smiled. It was as if she was waiting for Zhongfeng. Zhongfeng could only raise his hands in surrender. "I'm going to sleep first. Rest early. I'm waiting for Prince Zhong's poem." I wonder if Prince Zhong has any great works. What great works could Zhong Feng have? He knew how to plagiarize. Zhong Feng also knew that Jingshu took the initiative to find a topic to get close to him. Zhong Feng could not help but have a bigger headache. He casually thought in his mind and thought of a poem. This poem is a little long. If you want to hear it. Yes. Zhong Feng wanted to find an excuse to change the date, but Jingshu did not give him a chance. Zhong Feng's face stiffened. Why did the original method not work now? Fine. Then let's have a poem. After thinking for a while, Zhong Feng's mind instantly thought of a poem that suited his mood at this time. He could not help but cough. His face instantly became very solemn and he recited 10,000 gold goblets of wine, 10,000 jade bowls of shame. Stopping the cup and chopsticks, unable to eat, unsheathing the sword and looking around at a loss. Trying to cross the Yellow River, blocked by ice, trying to climb the Taihang Mountains covered with snow. Fishing in the blue stream, suddenly riding a boat by the sun's edge. The road is difficult. Many crossroads, where am I today? Sometimes the wind and waves will break, straight up the clouds and sail to the sea. The great Tao is like the blue sky, I can't find it alone. After finishing, Zhong Feng saw Jingshu's stunned face. He could not help but endlessly show off. This poem was created on a whim today. Miss Jingshu, go to bed early. I'm going to rest first. After finishing, Zhong Feng directly slipped away. What a joke. This poem was one of the difficulties of the poet immortal Li Taibai. Even if Jingshu was more intelligent than others, it was enough for her to taste. Take your time to think about it. Chapter 842. Jingshu was indeed shocked by Zhong Feng's poem. The perplexity and melancholy expressed in this poem made Jingshu's heart resonate with it. Her life was miserable. As a child, she was sold to an official prostitute. If it wasn't for a female official from the previous dynasty who taught her a set of zither skills, she might have already stepped into the mortal world. How could she get to know Zhong Feng? She always thought that Zhong Feng was a dissolute and unruly talent. But in his poems, there was always a kind of perplexity, which made Jingshu even more confused. Although there was a saying that Zhong Feng's family was suddenly hit by a flash flood and landslide in the Phoenix Ridge, and the whole family was buried in the mud in the mountains, Jingshu didn't believe it. Because what Zhong Feng showed was too shocking. Especially his page of drunken poems. It was simply a shocking work. And Zhong Feng's benevolent government. Wait. Which one of these was done by the predecessors? Although Zhong Feng always said that he had a mysterious master, but who was that master? Who could have such great ability? Wild geese still leave traces. What about his master? There was also the complicated relationship between Zhong Feng and Li Shimin and others. Let's not talk about these. Besides, Zhong Feng had innovated too many things. In her opinion, one of them could leave his name in history and make Zhong Feng earn a lot of money. But Zhong Feng was still like a treasure that couldn't be dug out. This made Jingshu worried again. Although Zhong Feng was so happy every time she saw him, but today, in the deep of the moon, Jingshu actually heard the loneliness and melancholy in this poem. Involuntarily, Jingshu's beautiful cheeks slowly glistened with tears. However, at the same time, although this poem was casually recited by Zhong Feng, don't forget that this was the mountain. There would always be some mischievous people on the mountain who wanted to listen to the wall and secretly learn from it. This matter, Zhong Feng and Li Chengqian all knew, but they didn't say anything. Anyway, in Zhong Feng's opinion, these things that could be said out loud were not big things. Once there was a big matter, the door would be closed and everyone would tacitly go far away. There was no other way. If you didn't go, those imperial guards disguised as guards would have to ask you to sleep in the Supreme Court for half a year. But today, Zhong Feng had caused too much of a ruckus. Everyone knew that Zhong Feng's 2 wives had come. Although most of the people were well behaved and didn't secretly learn from them, there were still some people who curiously came over when they saw Zhong Feng return. Once they came, they couldn't be saved. Originally, they wanted to secretly learn some skills. After all, every time Zhong Feng gave private lessons to Li Chengqian, Hao Chujun, and the others, these students would drool. As time passed, it became a trend to listen to Zhongfeng's private lessons. Once they saw Zhongfeng close the door, they would run as far as they could. Once Zhongfeng didn't close the door, no one would care about you. You can listen if you want. At this time, when Zhongfeng was reciting the poem, coincidentally, there were 3 students who were squatting below Zhongfeng's window. Seeing the 2 people talking, they were wondering if they should leave. Zhongfeng's words made their eyes burst with a flash of ecstasy. President Zhongfeng was going to compose a poem, and it was a poem that took him an entire afternoon to compose. It should be known that Zhongfeng usually didn't compose poems. But once he did, he would open his mouth and compose several poems at once. President Zhong used an entire afternoon to compose these poems. They instantly took out their brushes and ink from their arms in ecstasy. They were so nervous that they were sweating all over. When Zhongfeng's voice faded away, they were dumbfounded. After looking at each other, the 3 of them frantically recorded on the yellow paper, bamboo slips, and even the book covers that they had prepared in advance to secretly learn. It should be known that Zhongfeng had a lot of famous sayings on the mountain now. Each one of them was worth at least 1,000 strings of coins. And they were priceless. Especially the road that no one walked on before became a road after many people walked on it. Because of this one sentence, some people even called out the value of the first 2 pieces of gold, wanting to buy the right to use this word. But, at this time, the eyes of the 3 people couldn't help but turn into copper coins. After they finished recording, they ran away trembling all over as if they had epilepsy. Early the next morning, at the entrance of Yuchi Manor, a person wearing the special servant uniform of White Deer College anxiously knocked on the door. That person knocked on the door. After confirming that the person who came out was the housekeeper, he handed over a slip of paper and then hurriedly disappeared. To be able to become an official in the Yuchi mansion, how could he not have some skills? When he saw that this thing came down from Xiao Mountain, he hurriedly sent it to Yuchi Gong's study. But when he heard the clamorous snoring sound, the housekeeper wanted to knock on the door but didn't dare to. He anxiously scratched his ears and cheeks. "Housekeeper, what's the matter?" At this time, Yuchi Yu leisurely came over. Seeing this, the old housekeeper's eyelids twitched. He hurriedly bowed. "There's a letter that came down from Xiao Mountain." "But master, Xiao Mountain?" Yuchi Yu's eyelids twitched. Then she smiled and said, "Cousin is resting at the moment. Just give it to me. I'll give it to him later." The housekeeper hesitated for a long time. But in the end, he clenched his teeth and handed it to Yuchi Yu. The matter of Yuchi Yu going up the mountain to meet Zhongfeng, as well as Yuchi Gong wanting to introduce his cousin to Zhongfeng, had long been spread in the manor. So at this time, everyone naturally treated Yuchi Yu as a member of Xiao Mountain. It wasn't excessive to give it to her. After the housekeeper left, Yuchi Yu lightly knocked on the door a few times. A moment later, Madame Yuchi yawned and opened the door. When she saw Yuchi Yu standing at the door, she couldn't help but ask in astonishment, "Yu, what are you doing so early in the morning?" "Madam, this is a letter from Xiao Mountain. I saw that the housekeeper didn't dare to knock on the door, so I did it on his behalf." Yuchi Yu pursed her lips and smiled. Madame Yuchi waved her hand. "I was wondering what it was. That dead man is sleeping so deeply that even 8 horses can't pull him awake. Let's take a look first. If there's something urgent, we'll wake him up." Hearing this, Yuchi Yu's eyes flashed. She supported Madame Yuchi into Yuchi Gong's study. Yuchi Yu didn't shy away. In front of Madame Yuchi, she opened the letter. There were only a few short lines. But the moment she saw these lines, Yuchi Yu's expression changed greatly. Chapter 843. Reporting. Your Majesty, urgent report. Li Shimin, who had just walked out of the court, had not yet entered the imperial study to review the memorials when he heard a hurried report at the door of Taiji Palace. Li Shimin frowned slightly, but when he saw the symbolic clothing of Mount Xiao on that person, he waved his hand, "Go in and talk." As soon as he entered the imperial study, Li Shimin looked at the person who opened the door and asked with a solemn expression, "What's the matter?" "There's a letter from Mount Xiao," It's Prince Zhong who did something big last night. Oh. When Li Shimin heard this, he couldn't help but be interested. After waving his hand to signal Xiao Gizi to read it, he slowly sat on the soft couch, smoking and drinking tea in a very comfortable manner. Xiao Gizi took the letter and opened it. He, who had always been serious and did not have a trace of change in his expression, could not help but be moved at this time. Taking a deep breath, he said, "Golden wine and wine bowl for 10,000, jade plate for shame straight to 10,000. Stop cup and chopsticks can't eat, draw sword and look around at heart at a loss." And on the other side, in Wei Zheng's residence, Wei Zheng slowly looked at the note in his hand with a stunned expression, muttering, "Trying to cross the Yellow River, the river is blocked by ice, trying to climb the Taihang Mountains covered with snow. Come fishing on the Blue Stream, suddenly ride a boat to dream of the sun, the road is difficult. The road is difficult. Many paths, where are you today?" In Li Yuan's bedroom. At this time, Li Yuan's originally hazy sleepiness was instantly read by the female official kneeling in front of the bed. He did not completely wake up. "There will be times when the wind and waves will break, directly hang the cloud sail to the vast sea. The great Tao is like the blue sky, I can't get it alone." Is this really that kid's poem? Li Yuan asked in surprise. The female official trembled all over and hurriedly said, "This was passed down by the Jinwu guards of Mount Xiao, it can't be fake. Go down, investigate again." Li Yuan waved his hand and dismissed the servants. He took the note from the concubine's hand. The more he looked at it, the happier he was. Li Shimin, Wei Zheng, Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, and the others saw the poem almost at the same time. They also knew about this poem. Basically, everyone who knew about it knew about it. After all, if their son could go up the mountain, there would definitely be personal guards following him. It wasn't surprising that he was able to obtain such information. Almost at the same time, they frowned and looked in the direction of Xiao Mountain, asking, "What is that kid doing? Why does this poem make me feel so uncomfortable? How could the servant who delivered the letter know about this?" However, when they learned that Yu Qigong had introduced his cousin to Zhong Feng, they were shocked. At almost the same time, they immediately thought of the Taiji Palace. They all headed towards Li Shimin's imperial study room. Li Shimin also said, "Little Gizi, quickly summon the dukes. Especially that old man Yuchi. As long as he's not dead, you have to carry him here even if you have to." Seeing this, little Gizi's face twitched. Yes, Zhong Feng, this kid, had always been cheerful and carefree. These two women couldn't arouse his interest. At this time, giving him another one, wouldn't that be asking for his life? However, this kid didn't seem to be someone who couldn't control himself when he saw a woman, right? Otherwise, wouldn't that Jingshu have been taken in by him long ago? Could it be that there was something different about this Yuchi Yuer? Otherwise, why would that kid's mentality collapse? Li Shimin couldn't help but ask curiously, "That's right, let that old man Yuchi bring Yuchi Yuer. We want to see who exactly this Yuchi Yuer is." Little Gizi was stunned when he heard this. "Your Majesty, if Yuchi Yuer doesn't have status, she can't enter, just say that we summon her." Little Gizi shrank his neck when he heard this, then hurriedly retreated. On the other side, Yu Qigong was woken up in a daze by the woman's needles. He was about to get angry, but Madame Yuchi threw the slip of paper in her hand at Yu Qigong's face and said, "This is your fault, so do as you see fit." Just now, the servants reported that Wei Zheng and the other old fellows have received it. They're all running around the palace, and you're still trying to wake me up like a corpse. Another 2 hours and you'll really be a corpse. Yu Qigong was shocked when he heard this. He hurriedly looked at the paper, but there was no rush. After carefully reading it, he was so shocked that his forehead was covered in sweat. He wanted to curse. However, he couldn't curse in front of Yuchi Yuer. If it weren't for this damned woman's incitement, this wouldn't have happened. He originally thought that with Zhong Feng's thick nerves, there wouldn't be a problem. Great, now the matter had blown up. How could Yuchi Gong dare to sleep? He hurriedly got up and shouted as he crawled, "Old Ding, quickly prepare the carriage. Lao Tzu wants to enter the palace. Men." As he put on his boots, Gong glanced at Yuer. Yuer was as calm as usual, as if this matter wasn't caused by her. Gong couldn't help but wonder if he had done the right thing. However, it was useless to say that now. As he ran outside, he pointed at Yuer and said, "You follow me into the palace. Don't you think this matter has blown up?" Madame Yuchi wanted to scold him, but Gong retorted, "If she doesn't go, Lao Tzu will really be in big trouble. If His Majesty takes a look at Yuer, this matter might really work." There was such a thing. Madame Yuchi and Yuer were both shocked. "Let's go, Grandaunt. If we don't go now, none of us will have to go." Chapter 844. 2 hours later. In the imperial study, Li Yuan calmly sits on the side of the dragon throne, sitting together with Li Shimin. In the imperial study, Wei Zheng and the others are also whispering something, sometimes excited, sometimes serious. "Your Majesty, the Duke of Yi requests an audience. Summon him." Li Shimin doesn't even think about it, directly waving his hand. Soon after, Gong carefully walks into the imperial study with his big belly. As soon as he enters, Li Shimin coldly snorts and says, "Gong, do you know your crime?" Gong is shocked when he hears this. "Your Majesty, this old general doesn't know what crime I have committed." "What crime?" Li Yuan interrupts Li Shimin, slightly narrowing his eyes and asks, "You introduced your sister to that kid, what are your intentions?" Li Shimin rolls his eyes, wanting to say something, but after glancing at Gong, he finally crosses his arms and watches a good show. Cheng Yaojin and the others are the same at this time, smoking while lowering their heads and frowning, as if thinking about something important. After a hurried glance, Gong's heart thumps, hurriedly saying, replying to retired emperor, "This was a joke this old official played with Zhongfeng. You also know that I am henpecked. These things were all done by my fierce wife, it has nothing to do with this old official." Li Yuan smiles slightly, without a trace of change in expression. "I know what you're capable of, but if you hadn't told anyone about this, your wife would have found out. We know your wife's temperament very well. Without your approval, would Yuer have been able to ascend the mountain? Don't think I don't know what you are planning. If you marry that kid, won't your Yuchi family be able to achieve meteoric success? I don't care about this. I believe that the emperor is too lazy to care. After all, you are the duke, you have to think about me and the emperor. You want to push the emperor and me to the tip of the blade, to block the blade for the rise of your Yuchi family." Gong's face changes when he hears this. He hurriedly knelt down and said, "Retired emperor, this official has been wronged. I just saw that the kid was lonely on the mountain. Moreover, that kid is impetuous. I cherish talent. You also know the ability that kid has. If everyone were to guard him, there would be trouble. That girl of mine." "Shut up." Li Yuan frowned slightly. "You're quite thoughtful. Do you think that His Majesty and I haven't made any arrangements? Do I need you to worry about this? Does His Majesty and I have to thank you?" Gong was shocked and quickly shut his mouth. "Father." Seeing this, Li Shimin hurriedly called for a halt. "Imperial father, although the Duke of Yi was rather impetuous in this matter, he did mention something that reminded us. You also know that some time ago, that brat discovered something called immortal ointment. We already had people experiment with it in the death row prison. That thing is truly harmful to people. If you eat it, you will be neither human nor ghost. For such a thing to suddenly appear in Xiao Mountain is truly not a normal matter. The Duke of Yi is in charge of the safety of Xiao Mountain, so it's only right for him to think about Zhongfeng. It's just that he didn't think about everything." Li Yuan coldly snorted. But he could only ask, "Then what does your Majesty plan to do? If possible, how about we introduce one of your imperial sisters to Fengzi? You can issue an imperial edict." When Li Shimin heard this, he became even more ridiculous. His face darkened. He remained silent. Li Shimin also wanted to, but there was no suitable candidate. They were either too young or already married. Otherwise, why would Li Shimin go through so much trouble? So he tacitly approved and even secretly urged on Jingshu and Zhong Yuyao. If Li Shimin wanted to interfere, He could do so with a single word, but he did not. However, this Yu Qigong was indeed a little impetuous. Although he had good intentions, forget it, forget it. That kid should be the one to make the decision. We still think that we should let that kid make the decision. As for what the outcome will be, we will only know in the future. Your Majesty, if that's the case, how will you deal with those court officials? Li Yuan could not help but feel slightly dissatisfied. He waved his hand and said, "Forget it. Let that Yuchi Yue come in first. We are very curious." Even Jingshu and Zhong Yuyao could not touch that kid. Just what kind of ability does this Yuchi Yue have? Seeing this, Yu Qigong was overjoyed and hurriedly urged Little Gizi. After Little Gizi waited for Li Shimin to nod, he lazily roared, "Summon Yuchi Yue for an audience. Your Majesty, do you think that this Yuchi Yue and the Duke of Yi are cousins? Then don't the two of them look very similar?" Li Yuan quietly teased, but his voice was not so low. Li Shimin's expression also froze. Could it be that because she was too ugly, that kid, that's right. Yu Qigong was so big and burly. How beautiful could his cousin be? Could it be, while Li Yuan and Li Shimin were making blind guesses, the powdered Yuchi Yue gracefully walked into the imperial study. Instantly, Li Shimin and Li Yuan's eyes froze. Yuchi Yue pays respects to your Majesty, pays respects to retired emperor. The crisp and deeply enchanting voice caused Cheng Yaojin and the others to suddenly look towards the door. But in the next moment, everyone couldn't help but be shocked. Especially after seeing Yuchi Yue's eyes. Cough cough, beloved official Cheng, look at you. Pay attention to your appearance. Chapter 845. Those eyes. No wonder Zhong Feng was flustered. Even Li Shimin and the others, who had seen countless people and created people as powerful as mountains in their hearts, were deeply stunned when they saw her today. She was a demon. Even Li Yuan. At this time, he was also somewhat emotional. But when he thought that she was that boy's woman, he could only sigh. He scolded Cheng Yaojin and the others, who were staring. Then he waved his hand and said, "You are Yuchi Yue? Get up and raise your head." Yuchi Yue raised her head. Li Yuan and Li Shimin's brows raised slightly. Even if they already paid attention to their image, they were still somewhat shocked in their hearts. But there was not a trace of expression on their faces. This involuntarily made Yuchi Yue's eyes flash with a trace of disappointment. This trace of disappointment was deeply grasped by Li Yuan. He frowned slightly and said, "Yesterday on the mountain, you saw that boy. What is your impression of him?" Without waiting for Yuchi Yue to speak, Li Yuan said again, "We and the emperor will not interfere in this matter. As for whether that boy Zhong Feng accepts you or not, that will depend on your own ability. But you should be a smart person. Don't use small tricks. It will only increase Zhong Feng's disgust. That's enough, you can leave now." Li Yuan's words involuntarily made Li Shimin, Wei Zheng, and the others shocked in their hearts. At the same time, they also carefully savored Li Yuan's words. At the same time, their backs could not help but exude cold sweat. This woman was not simple. Yuchi Yue withdraws. Yuchi Yue naturally finally panicked at this time. Just now, she clearly hid that trace of disappointment in her heart very well, but it was still seen by Li Yuan, this old fox. What did this mean? Could it be, Yuchi Yue walked out of the imperial study in confusion, but did not plan to leave? However, who was Little Gizi? Early on, he sent 2 little eunuchs and 2 palace maids to follow behind her and keep an eye on her. This woman was not simple. Otherwise, the retired emperor would not be angry. Who was Li Yuan? The women around him were as many as the hairs on an ox. What kind of woman had he not seen? What kind of woman had he not tried to figure out? With just one sentence from Li Yuan, sometimes these eunuchs and palace maids could instantly understand a lot of things. After all, they were making a living in the palace. If they did not try to figure out their master's temperament, that would simply be courting death. Yuchi Yue aside for now. The atmosphere in the imperial study was heavy and strange. Li Yuan and Li Shimin whispered to each other for a while. Li Shimin's face also sank slightly. Then, he gave Yu Qigong a meaningful look and said indifferently, This emperor and the retired emperor will not care about this. Like I said before, Duke of E, you should take care of yourself. This emperor advises you that you should let this matter develop. Alright, all of you are dismissed for now. As for this matter, if anyone asks, just say that Yuchi admired Zhongfeng's literary talent and the reputation of Daoshan Academy, and that's why she went up the mountain to pay a visit to the 4 great Confucians. After that, don't mention this matter again. When they heard this, they knew what Li Shimin meant. They stood up and bowed. We understand. Alright, all of you are dismissed. After everyone left, Li Shimin asked, Father, do you mean that this Yuchi's thoughts are not pure? Li Yuan nodded. Send someone to Jiangnan to investigate, and you will know that this woman's thoughts are very heavy. Perhaps she is greedy. However, this woman's eyes are not a kind person. Moreover, we should take one step at a time. That boy should not be a kind person either. For the time being, let's not worry about it. However, it is enough to send someone to secretly keep an eye on this woman. When Li Shimin heard this, his heart sank slightly. Then, if by any chance, Father, Li Yuan narrowed his eyes and drew a line under his neck with his right hand. For the sake of that boy, if it really comes to that step, then so be it. However, this emperor really wants these two to succeed. If they succeed, then it will be wonderful. You know that boy Zhongfeng's temper, and this woman, these two are like needles. This emperor really wants to see what kind of tricks they will play when they combine like this. Ha ha ha. Li Yuan laughed loudly and walked away. After Li Shimin pondered for a moment, he smiled and lit a cigarette. He no longer cared about this matter. Instead, he carefully admired Zhongfeng's new poem again. Little Geezy, Brush and Ink. Although the thing was good, it was written on a small piece of paper. Li Shimin could not help but feel pity for it. Then, his poetic interest was greatly aroused. After dipping the brush in ink, he brewed this poem on the white paper like a dragon and snake. Then, he suddenly opened his eyes and copied this poem. Good poem. Before this, I really didn't see anything wrong with this poem. However, now that Your Majesty wrote it like this, a feeling of overlooking the common people suddenly appeared on the paper. When little Geezy saw this, he exclaimed. Li Shimin touched his chin and had people raise it up. After looking at it from afar, he could not help but laugh loudly. It's not that this emperor wrote it well, but Zhongfeng's poem is originally very good. Little Geezy, tell me, what's so good about this poem? Li Shimin put down the brush and ink, then lit a cigarette and asked. Little Geezy bent over and looked at it carefully, then said, It's good in the momentum of this poem. Tell me about it. When little Geezy heard this, he quickly knelt on the ground. Your Majesty, please forgive this servant's sin first. Okay, I forgive your sin. Hearing this, little Geezy said, This poem is like the current Tang dynasty. Although everything seems to be developing well, there are wolves around the Tang dynasty. In fact, the Tang dynasty is like a trapped beast, so this servant thinks that the meaning of this poem is like the current Tang dynasty. Chapter 846. The smile on Li Shimin's face disappeared. It was just as little Geezy had said. The Tang dynasty was not peaceful now. Although everything seemed fine on the inside, only a few people knew that the 3 great powers were still 3 mountains weighing down on the Great Tang. Although one of them was in imminent danger, it had yet to topple. As for the Shandong aristocrats, they would have to wait for the imperial examination held in Zhongfeng's academy 3 years later to decide. Originally, the imperial examination system was held once every 3 years. According to the plan, there would be an imperial examination this year. However, too many things had happened in the past few years. Later, Zhongfeng suddenly appeared. Li Shimin had to grit his teeth and cancel this year's imperial examination on the grounds of the disaster this year. Wasn't this why Li Shimin was confused? The more he read the poem, the more shocked Li Shimin became. Little Geezy, come and look. This poem, Li Shimin called him and then shook his head. Forget it. You can leave now. I need to be alone. On the other side. In a tea house in Chang'an City. At this moment. Blind Sun appeared in front of everyone's expectant eyes again. Pa. He slammed the gavel. All the people in the tea house instantly focused their eyes on him. Even the people on the second floor, because of the paper-by incident, did not dare to treat Blind Sun as an ordinary person anymore. After Blind Sun heard the silence in the hall, he slowly took a sip of tea and slowly said, "Today, we will still talk about the matter of Mount Yi." Hearing Mount Xiao, everyone was instantly interested. Blind Sun, isn't Mount Xiao the White Deer College? Did the college produce something good again? A young man in a green robe on the second floor cupped his hands and asked. Hearing this, Blind Sun cupped his hands and said to the second floor, "Child Ju, you must have heard of the name Zhongfeng, right?" The young man in the green robe nodded. "Yes, I have heard of him." "This person, good." Blind Sun interrupted him, but young Master Ju didn't even dare to fart. "That Zhongfeng is the disciple of an extraordinary person. But today, let's not talk about his legend, and how he managed to turn those stubborn disciples into obedient grandsons. Let's talk about his talent." Talent. Although this person heard that the 4 great Confucians jointly recommended him to be the Great Confucian, it has never been confirmed. Now, the 4 great Confucians have all run to the mountain and don't show their faces. Even the medicine god Sun Simiao has stayed on the mountain and doesn't come down. Everyone was still curious. This Blind Sun actually wanted to talk about it. Everyone couldn't help but become even more curious. This Prince Zhongfeng. Let's not talk about anything else. Just based on his talent, I'm sure everyone can recognize a few of his poems. For example, I'm sure everyone has heard of that poem, right? Hearing this, everyone could not help but nod. That's right, this poem is indeed shocking. However, this has nothing to do with talent, right? Ha ha ha. Blind Sun stroked his beard and laughed loudly. Then, he suddenly shouted, "Who said that?" In an instant, the entire tea house suddenly became quiet. Whether a person is talented or not, let's not talk about other aspects first. A poem is enough to represent everything about this person. As he spoke, Blind Sun picked up the wine pot on the table and poured a cup of wine. He raised the cup and stood up. Then, he shouted loudly, "Don't you see, the water of the Yellow River comes from the sky and flows to the sea, never to return. Don't you see, the bright mirror grieves white hair, like black silk in the morning, like snow in the evening." After this poem, the entire tea house became silent. Even the scholars, and dignitaries on the second floor instantly became quiet. Everyone was trying to figure out the artistic conception of this poem. After Blind Sun's shout, everyone's hearts instantly surged. After a long while, Blind Sun still minded his own business and continued to drink his wine. On the third floor, a faint female voice sounded again. "Well said. Men, reward Prince Zhong's white wine." Hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up. White wine? What kind of wine is this? Under everyone's expectant gazes, a maidservant carried a white porcelain wine pot to a platform between the first and second floor. This was also the place where Blind Sun always told stories. Blind Sun cupped his fists towards the third floor. "Thank you, shopkeeper." Then, under everyone's gaze, he slowly poured a cup of wine. In an instant, the fragrance of the white wine filled everyone's hearts. Blind Sun sniffed and then praised, "Good wine." After drinking it in one gulp, Blind Sun's face instantly turned as red as blood. This scene shocked everyone. However, under everyone's gazes, Blind Sun placed his hand on his chest for a moment before taking a deep breath. Good wine. Good wine. No wonder young Master Zhong was able to compose such a beautiful poem. I'm afraid that the wine is the most important thing, as expected of Prince Zhong, who was given the title of Wine Immortal by the 4 great scholars. Wine Immortal? Zhongfeng's title was Wine Immortal? This, everyone couldn't help but be stunned. Smelling the wine in the air and recalling the poem that Blind Sun had just recited, everyone's mind couldn't help but spin. Those who could become saints and immortals, which one of them didn't have the ability to transcend the heavens and the earth? This Zhongfeng was only in his early 20s. How could he be called Wine Immortal? However, Blind Sun didn't say too much. Instead, he talked about Zhongfeng again. Just last night, Wine Immortal Prince Zhong created a masterpiece in Xiao Mountain. At this moment, The emperor, the retired emperor, and even a few dukes in the imperial palace were alarmed. Chapter 847. On the Mountain. When the gong sounded, it was time to open the gates. Zhong Feng slowly got out of bed. As soon as he went out and was about to call Shiva, Zhong Yuyao and Xiao Kui'er had already placed the copper basin on the table and were taking a nap. Seeing Zhong Feng come out, Xiao Kui'er quickly picked up the copper basin. Young master. Zhong Feng was stunned. How long have you been waiting here? Zhong Yuyao's cheeks were red. Not long. Not long, just 3 envoys. Before Zhong Yuyao could finish, Jingshu's faint voice sounded from another room. Zhong Feng took a look. He didn't know when, but Jingshu was actually sitting in his confidential information room, flipping through an ancient book. Hearing this, Zhong Feng's head almost exploded. However, Zhong Feng thought about it again. I didn't ask you to wait. Forget it, I'll take it one step at a time. Thinking of this, Zhong Feng shamelessly pointed at the sink at the side and said, Don't worry. As expected. Xiao Kui'er obediently brought the copper basin to the basin and even handed Zhong Feng's towel to Zhong Yuyao. Zhong Feng didn't say anything. He calmly sat in front of the basin. Xiao Kui'er washed Zhong Feng's face, while Zhong Yuyao combed Zhong Feng's hair with a red face and a racing heart. After a while, Zhong Feng was like a puppet. Under Zhong Yuyao's torment, he looked brand new. However, when Zhong Feng saw what he was wearing in the copper mirror, he didn't feel good. There was nothing wrong with the crown. Pure gold embedded with gems, but what was the meaning of this green robe? Yuyao, this, Zhong Feng pointed to the green robe on his body and asked. That was knitted by Sister Yuyao in the past month. The thread is also from the mulberry silkworms that Sister Yuyao raised personally. Sister Jingshu, that's enough. Zhong Yuyao hurriedly interrupted Jingshu, but Zhong Feng understood everything. He wanted to take it off, but how could he do it now? How would he dare to take it off? Rubbing his nose, Zhong Feng calmly patted Zhong Yuyao's shoulder. Revealing a smile that he thought was charming, he said, Thank you for your hard work. I like this robe very much. When Zhong Yuyao heard this, she lowered her head and blushed like an egg. Zhong Feng couldn't help but crack. He hurriedly found an excuse and said, Oh right, it's time to eat. Clean up and let's eat. Miss Jingshu, it's time to eat. Siva, where's my food? Where the hell did you go? His here. In an instant, Shiva, who had been standing outside the door for a long time, walked into the room awkwardly. He didn't even dare to raise his head as he hurriedly placed the food box on the table and slipped away. Seeing this, Zhong Feng was stunned. Jingshu placed the ancient book in her hand on the bookshelf and looked at Zhong Feng with a smile. Prince Zhong doesn't have to be like this. Why? But you're really Frank. Frank my ass. Zhong Feng was embarrassed. He was angry and embarrassed. He didn't explain and sat down. He stared at Kui'er as she placed the exquisite dishes on the table. He waved his hand and said, Let's eat. After hurriedly eating a few mouthfuls of food, Zhong Feng finally found an excuse and said, I still have something to do at the foot of the mountain. I'll go first. You guys eat slowly. After saying this, he ran away as if he was fleeing from a disaster. When Zhong Feng left the room, he sighed in relief. However, when he looked at his toad-like green robe, Zhong Feng had the urge to beat someone up. Before this, he was still laughing at Kui'er's green robe. Now, in the blink of an eye, could it be that Zhong Yuyao likes green that much? No, I have to educate her. While thinking, Zhong Feng wandered around the mountain gate. At this moment, Uncle He came to Zhong Feng with a strange expression and said, Fengzi, come here. What's wrong? However, Uncle He didn't say anything. He pointed to the back of the kitchen. Zhong Feng saw Li Chengqian and the others waving at him. Since he wasn't full just now, Zhong Feng didn't care about it. However, when Zhong Feng entered the kitchen, Uncle He immediately drove everyone out. However, Zhong Feng didn't notice. He picked up the bowl of porridge that was prepared for him and gulped it down in one gulp. Fengzi, you're really famous now. Do you know? Zhong Feng was a little confused. However, when he thought of Yu, he seemed to understand something. He lazily agreed and then asked while eating, Oh, and then? And then? And then you ask. Li Chengqian smiled and said, "What did you do last night?" "Last night? Wasn't it yesterday afternoon?" "Nothing. What else can I do except sleep?" "I mean except sleep." Hearing that, Zhong Feng put down his bowl and chopsticks. He looked at Cheng Chumo and the others with a strange expression and asked, "Tell me clearly. Did I really go back to sleep last night after I finished talking with you? What else can I do except sleep?" Zhong Feng was a little impatient. Seeing that Zhong Feng didn't seem to know, Li Chengqian got close to Zhong Feng and asked, "Did you compose a poem last night?" Zhong Feng thought for a while. He did compose a poem. He nodded and asked, "You did? What's wrong? Where's the original work? Show it to us." Zhong Feng was even more confused. "Yesterday, I just casually told Jingshu a poem and then went to sleep. I don't have any original work. If you want an original work, write it yourself and stamp it with my seal. It's an original work." Hearing Zhong Feng's words, Li Chengqian and the others couldn't help but look serious. They said, "Feng, are you sure you didn't write it last night? I wrote your grandma's leg. If you have something to say, just say it. Don't hold it in. It's uncomfortable." Seeing that Zhong Feng was angry, Li Chengqian lit a cigarette and blew out a smoke ring. He said, "Since you didn't write it, but today, your poem has been spread all over Chang'an City. You're famous." "I'm famous?" Zhong Feng was stunned. He pointed to his nose and asked, "Is there an immortal?" Lao Tzu just said it casually. "How did it spread to Chang'an City?" "Because you've been eavesdropped." Chapter 848. Had he been eavesdropped on? Zhong Feng's hair stood on end when he heard this. Who? Which bastard dared to eavesdrop on Lao Tzu? There were three kinds of people that Zhong Feng hated the most in his life. The first kind was gossiping. If Zhong Feng encountered this, he would be beaten up in the future. However, if he was in the Tang dynasty, he would definitely cut off that person's tongue. The second kind was those who secretly agreed but secretly disobeyed and betrayed. However, Zhong Feng hated this kind of eavesdroppers the most. They were the most detestable kind. There was no privacy at all. How could he play? This time, Zhong Feng unexpectedly became famous because of this eavesdropper. Li Chengqian saw this and said, "It's 3 students. They are now kneeling in front of Mr. Bosch's door as punishment." "Students? What's the point of keeping such students? Throw them off the mountain and don't let them take a step up the mountain for the rest of their lives." Zhong Feng was also furious. Li Chengqian saw this and sighed slightly. "This is all your fault." Zhong Feng pointed at his nose and laughed angrily. "Good fellow, how can you blame this on me? Yes, these students came up the mountain to study. Look at them during this time. These people are working as coolies. Do you think they can be balanced? And the most important thing is that you taught us alone during this time. This makes people jealous. You have a big mouth. From time to time, you would come up with amazing famous sayings. This made the students on the mountain even more restless. Other than when you closed the door, under normal circumstances, there are people squatting outside your door at all times, waiting for your famous saying." Hearing this, Zhong Feng's hair stood on end. Was there still privacy? Was there still human rights? Zhong Feng stared at Li Chengqian and said, "Don't you have servants on the mountain? Could it be that these servants were all incompetent? Don't they care about this?" Li Chengqian spread his hands. "They didn't do anything shameful. Besides, this kind of thing doesn't violate the Academy's rules. You didn't change the Academy's rules. Other than craftsmen, students are generally allowed to move freely at night." So, Li Chengqian shrugged. This kind of thing, he really couldn't care less. There had never been such a law in the Tang dynasty. This was a moral issue and could only be strictly educated. If there were any serious consequences, the government would take action. Zhong Feng was so angry that his whole body trembled. "Big flat cake, remember this. Tomorrow, we'll make the rules now. You'll be in charge. Carve it on the gate at the foot of the mountain." "All right." Dugo said indifferently. Then, he took out the brush and ink that he always carried with him and unfolded it. "Students are not allowed to eavesdrop. Those who are caught will have their legs broken and will never be allowed to enter any place under my name for the rest of their lives. Students are not allowed to gossip, not allowed. Zhong Feng listed 9 of the Academy's commandments in one breath, and the eavesdropper was the first one. It could be seen that Zhong Feng was really angry. This was also the reason why they waited here alone for Zhong Feng. Most importantly, these people had been idle for too long. No one could sit still if they did these things all day long. The key was that Zhong Feng treated them differently. How could they be willing? That would be the real deal. Li Chengqian stared at Zhong Feng until his anger subsided. Then, he asked, Fengzi, when do you plan to start teaching these people officially? If you don't teach them now, they will go crazy. This was a big problem. Zhong Feng heard this and his anger subsided a lot. After a moment of silence, he said, how long will it take for the Academy's construction to be completed? I'm talking about the Academy's classes. Half a month. At the earliest, it will be half a month. Li Chengqian made a conservative estimate. Half a month. Zhong Feng touched his chin and thought for a while. Half a month it is. I'll go look for Mr. Bosch later. Tomorrow, we'll hold a general meeting of the Academy. The day after tomorrow, we'll select those who you think are outstanding and start the formal teaching. Differential treatment. You're still here? Wei Shuyu and the others couldn't help but frown and look at Li Chengqian. Li Chengqian didn't know what Zhong Feng was thinking. Seeing this, he could only say, Fengzi, this matter, I think. Don't you think it's good? I want what I think. Zhong Feng interrupted Li Chengqian and said, look at the current situation in the world. People are divided into different classes. Why can't my academy do the same? Although I've said before that everyone here is equal, there are always a few shining stars among them. These are the people we need to focus on nurturing. This way, everyone in the academy will have a sense of crisis and a spirit of improvement. If thousands of people were to be educated fairly, would you be the one to teach them? Or me? Or let Mr. Bo Sure and the others do it? It'll be a wonder if they don't die of exhaustion. Li Chengqian was speechless. Zhong Feng's words made sense. However, the current situation was that most of the construction on the mountain was basically completed, but those who came from Chang'an and the surrounding areas were still unwilling to leave the mountain. On the one hand, it was because they could fill their stomachs here. On the other hand, Zhong Feng's charm made these people reluctant to leave. That was why the current situation was created. There were more people and less work. Once this person was free, it would be a big deal. Zhong Feng also thought of this point. You guys go and look for Mr. Gan. If possible, leave all the things in the academy to the students. As for the people on the mountain, leave the necessary ones. The rest will go and build the rubber factory, as well as the textile factory, the smelting factory, and the paper factory. As for the food factory, don't touch it for the time being. Hearing this, Li Chengqian's face finally burst with a hint of ecstasy. Zhong Feng was finally going to be serious. Chapter 849. After finishing the conversation with Cheng Chumo and the others, Zhong Feng left. However, Li Chengqian and the others also successfully removed the task that Zhong Feng gave them. Last night, they thought for a long time. If they were to draw water from the waterfall, it was almost impossible to accomplish. Now that such a thing had happened, Zhong Feng was not in the mood to teach them what was called the wind-water method. After all, if these students who had nothing better to do were not taught well, then everything they did before would be in vain. This was the biggest problem. When Zhong Feng arrived, Yu Shenan and the others burst into laughter in Li Yuan's bamboo house. The most important thing was that they seemed to still be discussing Zhong Feng's new poem. At the door, 3 young men wearing linen shirts were standing neatly at the door, reciting the Tao Te Ching over and over again. Zhong Feng did not care about anything, directly shouting outside the door, "Student Zhong Feng greets several teachers." When the few people heard this, they suddenly burst into laughter again. You see, we were just talking about this kid, and he came. Come in, the door is not locked. When Zhong Feng saw this, he pushed open the door. As soon as he entered the room, he saw that on the screen in the middle of the room, there was a piece of writing that had just been done. The ink had not yet dried. This was the poem that Zhong Feng made last night. Yu Shan'an pointed to the poem on the screen and said, "This was written by you last night?" "Yes, I said it last night, but I did not write it." When he heard this, he asked, "Then how did the people in Chang'an know now, this was also done by you?" Hearing this, Zhong Feng poured out his grievances. "Wronged, this student is wronged. This is all because of those damn people, spreading false information. Yes, it was the 3 bastards outside the door who eavesdropped and spread it out." When Yu Shan'an heard this, he pointed to a futon below, motioning Zhong Feng to sit down, then he said, "Now, your poem is completely popular. Last night, these 3 boys relied on your poem to earn 3 beggars' chicken and 10 pounds of braised meat, do you know? My poem is so worthless." Zhong Feng's eyes instantly became round. When Yu Shan'an saw this, he laughed and scolded, "So, you think the poem was sold cheap? This was spread from their hands. Do you know how much the second hand earned?" "How much?" 300,000 strings. Even if Zhong Feng had a hunch, he was still shocked by this number. Which nouveau riche wanted to buy this? "Come to me. I don't want more. Even if you give me 100,000, I can make 180 poems for you in one night. Don't be so greedy. Do you think this is a good thing?" When Ouyang Zun saw this, he glared at Zhong Feng and scolded him. In an instant, Zhong Feng immediately put away the greed on his face. "This student understands." Ouyang Zun nodded, "But your poem is excellent. As for the matter of we don't care. You just need to pay attention to the influence. But old man and others give you a piece of advice, stay away from this person, or you won't even know how you died. This woman was so awesome." Zhong Feng didn't know how to ask, so he just nodded. "That's enough. There must be a reason for him to come here. Boy, the old scholar just went to the waterfall. You call him and we'll discuss the friendly match between Chang'an University and the Imperial College." "Oh." Zhong Feng behaved like an obedient child. As soon as he went out, he saw the 3 people at the door and waved his hand, "Go and call the old scholar for me." Then Zhong Feng directly went back to the small bamboo house, regardless of whether they were willing or not. The few of them acted as if they didn't see him. They sipped their tea as they surrounded the piece of calligraphy and commented on it. After a while, the old scholar hurried into the bamboo house. At this time, they sat down reluctantly. After sitting down, Yu Shan'an looked at the old scholar and said, "Brother Zihuai, you should tell us about the situation at the foot of the mountain." The old scholar looked at Zhong Feng and said, "I have told Fengzi about the situation at the foot of the mountain yesterday. The current situation is that we can either form our own Kuju team or change the method. Brother Boji and I have discussed it in Chang'an University. If it doesn't work, we can use Fengzi's military knowledge. Aren't old you and the others training now? When the time comes, we can call people from their place and win for sure." Yu Shan'an and the others stopped smiling and stroked their beards. After a while, Ouyang Zun said, "Although it seems like there is no problem, military knowledge still belongs to generals and is biased towards our academy. Therefore, the old man thinks that it is better to have a Kuju team. What do you think? Didn't you just compose a poem last night? We are all Confucian scholars. Why don't we compete in poetry? I think so. His talent in poetry is unparalleled. Moreover, if we can win the Imperial College, Chang'an University and our White Deer College's reputation will soar again." The few of them discussed heatedly. On the contrary, Zhong Feng felt that he had come to the wrong place. "Once you've discussed this matter, just let me know and it'll be fine. Do you want me to sit here and listen to you argue? Do you have to?" Chapter 850. The discussion was lively and lively. He had even made proper arrangements for the aftermath of the victory. Zhong Feng finally couldn't listen to it anymore. He asked weakly, "May I ask, respected teachers, do you only need me for this friendly competition?" This question was out of the question. Everyone's fantasies were instantly shattered. After exchanging glances with each other, they coughed and returned to their seats. "By the way, Fengzi, why didn't you mention this earlier? Why don't you tell me your thoughts?" Yu Shan'an pretended as if nothing had happened and asked while sipping his tea. Zhong Feng rolled his eyes and said, "I will listen to the arrangements of my respected teachers." The old scholar frowned slightly when he heard this. Tell me, if poetry is not good enough, you can only participate in the Mid-Autumn Hunt by playing Kuju. However, this Mid-Autumn Hunt is significant. If we lose, Chang'an University will forever be inferior to Imperial College in Chang'an. Zhongfeng heard this and couldn't help but ask, what if we don't participate in the Mid-Autumn Hunt? Don't participate? This is organized by the Imperial College. It is held twice a year. If we don't participate, we won't have the chance to participate in the Imperial examination after graduation. Do you think we can refuse? The old scholar explained to Zhongfeng in detail. Finally, Zhongfeng recalled the origin of the Mid-Autumn Hunt in his mind. He couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. The students made it clear that the Imperial College wanted to intimidate Chang'an University. What were they doing? This was a slap in the face. Once Chang'an University lost, White Deer College's reputation would also be damaged. Now, Zhongfeng could only participate in the competition. However, he couldn't even find a Kuju team. What could he do? Are you sure you can't find a Kuju team now? Zhongfeng asked again. If I can find one, why would I come to you? Zhongfeng couldn't help but rub his chin. This time, the Imperial College was obviously targeting Zhongfeng. After all, Zhongfeng had been in the limelight recently. Why couldn't the Kuju team find him? Not necessarily. Why don't we form our own Kuju team? Zhongfeng said indifferently. But the moment he said that, Yu Shinan instantly extinguished his thoughts. No, Kuju is just a form of entertainment. Moreover, it costs a lot of money and time. White Deer College is going to open in less than a month. Where would we find the time? Besides, the Mid-Autumn Hunt is only 10 days away. Once the Mid-Autumn Hunt ends, it will be the Mid-Autumn Hunt poetry meet. Others may have the time, but where would you find the time? Zhongfeng shrugged. Then there's nothing I can do. It was really impossible to form a team in 10 days. Not to mention other things, he had seen Kuju in the Tang dynasty. It was simply a group fight. How was it football? They couldn't help but fall into deep thought again. But they were also annoyed. They just looked at Zhongfeng without saying a word. Zhongfeng couldn't sit still anymore. Why are you looking at me? Why are we looking at you? Yu Shinan glanced at Zhongfeng. Chang'an University is yours. This White Deer College is also yours. Now that we're helping you think of a solution, you're just sitting there pretending to be a master. No. I'm innocent. I'm really innocent. You and the other teachers can help me. Why do I need to say anything? Zhongfeng complained. But would Yu Shinan let him go? In the end, the old scholar coughed. All right, we're already so old. Fengzi, tell us your opinion. After all, you have a lot of practical ideas. Zhongfeng lowered his head. He lit a cigarette and said, actually, I do have a solution. Old elementary scholar, let me ask you, this hunt is compulsory, isn't it? The old scholar nodded. Zhongfeng asked again, if I don't choose Kuju or other sports, can I choose other sports? The old scholar couldn't help but feel a little apprehensive. You can, but you have to report it in advance. If the Imperial College accepts it, then the Ministry of Works will naturally allow it. Hearing the old scholar's words, Zhongfeng's mood instantly calmed down. If that was the case, then it would be easy. He had no way of starting a football team, but he did have a way to teach his younger brother how to play basketball within 10 days, and this included making a basketball. Now that he had rubber, it wouldn't be difficult to make a basketball. As long as he handed it over to Arkin, it would be a piece of cake. In that case, even if there were only 8 days left, he could train him in a short time. The most important thing was that there was no such thing in the Tang dynasty. That was why Zhongfeng was confident that he could start a basketball team in such a short time. After 3 days of training, even a fool would know how to throw a ball into a basket. Thinking of this, Zhongfeng blew out a smoke ring and said, if that's the case, I do have a plan. I don't know if it will work. Tell me about it. The old scholar didn't dare to trust Zhongfeng too much. This kid was born in the year of the donkey. If he didn't pay attention, he would cause big trouble. Chapter 851. Yu Shinan and the others did the same. Seeing this, Zhongfeng sighed inwardly that he had met the wrong person. He then said, "Actually, this matter is very simple. My former teacher once told me about something called basketball. This thing." "Wait, what did you say? Basketball? What's that?" Zhongfeng had a headache. How should he explain to these people what basketball was? He thought about it and said, "It's not easy for me to explain it to you now. However, if you believe me, Chang'an University will definitely win this mid-autumn hunt. That's enough. How about it?" They looked at each other. In the end, it was Ouyang Zun who made the final conclusion. "We don't care what you're up to. However, we have to check it out in 5 days. Otherwise, we won't be confident." Zhongfeng shook his head. "Okay, then in 5 days, I'll invite you all down the mountain to watch a basketball game. However, I have a problem now. I hope you can help me." The biggest problem was solved. Yu Shanan laughed and scolded, "I knew you wouldn't come here for no reason. Tell me, is it because of these 3 students who were eavesdropping on you?" Zhongfeng nodded, and then said with deep hatred, "There are only 3 types of people who are the most ruthless in a student's life. The first type is those who specialize in stealing from others, and the second type is those who talk nonsense behind others' backs. That is the kind of people who are lazy and only talk nonsense. Therefore, I have just set 13 academy precepts. Later, dabbing will bring it over for all of you to review and revise. As for these people, I think it's best to expel them from the mountain." Ouyang Zun frowned slightly. "Isn't that a bad idea? White Deer College's reputation has just been established. If we expel them now, it will damage the reputation of the college." "No." Zhongfeng shook his head decisively. "These black sheep should be alerted to the fact that White Deer College provides free education. However, it doesn't mean that the college will accept anyone. Therefore, this student believes that it's best to expel him from this place." Zhongfeng's words were so convincing. The few of them didn't say anything. In the end, the old scholar asked worriedly, "What is the purpose of this? You couldn't have chased him down the mountain out of anger, could you?" Hearing this, Yu Shanan and the others couldn't help but look at Zhongfeng. Last night, they didn't need to think to know what Zhongfeng was doing in the room. They were all experienced people, so how could they not know? However, these few unlucky fellows just had to pretend at this time. Not only did they bump into Zhongfeng, but they also read out Zhongfeng's poem. This was the most important thing. Otherwise, if it was in the past, the commotion caused at this time would have made this brat laugh until his mouth was about to reach his ears. How could he fly into a rage out of humiliation? "No, I've thought about this for a long time." Zhongfeng shook his head. "Currently, the construction of the college is about to be completed. With less work to do, these people have more ideas. Therefore, there are more people who have crooked thoughts. Therefore, it's time to rectify the atmosphere. Otherwise, they will really think that White Deer College has no rules at all. How can we manage them in the future?" Yu Shanan praised as he stroked his beard. "You finally remembered what you wanted to do. I thought you would need some time to remember what you were doing." Zhongfeng's face stiffened. "I didn't think of this before. I'm so busy." "Busy?" Ouyang Zun laughed. "I think you're not doing your job properly. Moreover, don't think that old man doesn't know that you've selected some people. This is the most important thing. You ignored the thousands of students on the mountain and went to take care of those little fellows. It would be strange if nothing happened. The students only know that the consequences are serious now. To be honest, it's too late. Unless you treat everyone equally. Isn't the purpose of your school to treat everyone equally? Why, now you know the difference in treatment." How could Zhongfeng not know that Ouyang Zun was mocking him? He had indeed said such things before. However, when did this happen? Zhongfeng simply repeated what he had said to Li Chengqian and the others, especially the key point of why there was such a difference in treatment. "Kid, the reason for the difference in treatment is mainly because there are too many monks on the mountain and not enough gruel. There are thousands of students, but there are only 4 of you as teachers. Even with me, it's not enough." "So?" Yu Shanan nodded and asked. Zhongfeng continued, So my idea is to first select a few outstanding people from these people and undergo the first step of training. Then, let these people lead the next batch of people, and then the next batch of people will lead the new people. In this way, the old students can also review the old and learn new things, and the teachers and the others can also relax a little. Otherwise, the academy won't be able to operate normally in the future. This was Zhong Feng's further improvement of the class division system in the Tang dynasty. It was also called the batch system. It was easy to run an academy, but it was inevitable that there would be some people with a foundation among these people. If they were put together, would they be taught how to read? Or what to teach them? Neither side was willing to do so. Therefore, in the end, Zhong Feng could only come up with such a clever idea. After the establishment of Chang'an University, Zhong Feng once talked about the 6 principles. However, because of the establishment of the Science and Technology Department, he put this matter aside. Now that he mentioned it, the old scholar suddenly understood and said, "That's right. Feng Zi once said this set of principles when he first opened Chang'an University. Brother Boshi, think about it carefully. I once said it." Yu Shanan and the others couldn't help but frown slightly. "Are you talking about that?" Chapter 852. The old scholar nodded and said, "Yes, it's the class system I told you about before. But later, this kid basically didn't care about Chang'an University anymore. Besides, Brother Boji also resigned from the position of Crown Prince's master and came to Chang'an University, so I didn't mention it. If Fengzi didn't mention it, I would have forgotten about it." Hearing that, it took Yu Shanan and the others a long time before they finally remembered what the old scholar had told them in his letter. They frowned again and pondered for a long time. Yu Shanan smiled and said, "Old guys, this kid dislikes us for eating on the mountain and not working." Zhong Feng was shocked when he heard that. He was wronged. This was a great injustice. "Master, you must be joking. Even if you ask me to serve you for a lifetime, it would be my honor. Come on, we're just kidding." Chu Suiliang looked at Zhong Feng with a smile and said, "However, you brat, are you really planning to raise us like pigs? If we don't do something when we're provided with good food and drink every day, won't we be sneered at by others? All right, leave the matters on the mountain to us. As for the later matters, such as the printing of books, you don't have to worry about them. We'll naturally look for you when we need you. For the time being, you just have to settle the matters of the autumn hunt." Zhong Feng heard that and breathed a deep sigh of relief. "I understand. Well, since things are clear, kid, send a jar of white wine here. Let's discuss this matter carefully." "There's no white wine." Zhong Feng waved his hand repeatedly. "You still want to lie to us? If Brother Zihuai didn't come yesterday, you were going to eat it alone?" Zhong Feng shouted that he was wronged. But it didn't help. Finally, he gritted his teeth and nodded. "Well, okay. Then I'll leave first." While speaking, Zhong Feng left in a huff. After Zhong Feng left, Chu Suiliang held his big belly and said, "I told you this kid was hiding something, right? You don't believe me? Ha ha ha, this brat is really crafty." The old scholar opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. After the few of them joked around for a while, Yu Shanan said with a serious expression, "Everyone, now that you know the situation on the mountain and at the foot of the mountain, it is not reliable. However, there are some good people in charge of external affairs, so the rest will have to depend on the few of us for the time being. I think that we should get those few brats to come over first and start teaching from tomorrow onwards. It's okay to teach, but the key is how to teach. The new building of the academy is not ready yet. We can't teach in the open air, right?" Seeing this, they couldn't help but put away the smiles on their faces, and their expressions became serious. "If it doesn't work, we really need to teach in the wild. Otherwise, there won't be anything to do on the mountain. Once people are free, they will stir up trouble. Once they stir up trouble, the mountain will be in chaos. Once chaos happens, things will happen." Ouyang Zun frowned and continued, "However, it's also okay to teach in the wild. After all, Confucius used to teach outside often. If you don't have any objections, old man will send someone to pass on the message now. Tomorrow morning, will it officially start?" "Wait a moment." Chu Suiliang waved his hand and said, Teaching is teaching, but where and how to teach needs to be decided first. Brother Zihuai, don't just sit there. Tell us about the teaching philosophy of Chang'an University, and we can discuss going down the mountain to report the situation. Hearing this, the old scholar raised his eyelids and said, Fengzi, I leave the things on the mountain to you. Of course, I have no right to say anything. Hearing this, Yu Shinan laughed and said, Look, Brother Zihuai is crying out for that brat. Come on, Brother Zihuai, we were just joking with that brat. You took it seriously? It's really. Let's drop this matter for now. Let's talk about this matter first. What do you think? Teaching was a matter of great importance. Once there was a problem, it would be a big problem. In this way, although the teaching did not pay attention to bathing and burning incense, the basic ceremony was still necessary. But at this time, everything in the academy was not ready, so it was useless to say more. This was the biggest problem. Although the old scholar was dissatisfied with their approach, he also knew the importance of this matter. He could not help stroking his beard and thinking for a while, then slowly said, I just saw the waterfall. It's a good place. The meaning of the jujube tree is good, and the gurgling water is quite poetic. In ancient times, Confucius and Meng taught under the jujube tree. Today, the four great Confucians will teach under the jujube tree. Yu Shinan and the others at this time looked a little confused. In their inherent thinking, didn't the teaching need to be in a clean room? Now, what kind of teaching was this? Sun Simiao, who had been speaking up for them, said faintly, in fact, you all pay too much attention to things that look good on the outside. An old farmer in the field teaching a skill to a young child is also teaching. A cook chopping firewood and carrying water in the kitchen is also teaching a skill. An old cow plowing the land and following the calves is also teaching. Why should we care about appearances? Hearing this, Yu Shinan and the others could not help but feel a chill in their hearts. Sun Simiao reminded them in an instant. Involuntarily, Jekka nodded with some guilt and said, Brother Sun is right. We pay too much attention to these things of Shu Hua. Let's go, old guys. Since we became great Confucians, we have been away for a long time. Chapter 853. After Zhongfeng threw all the matters of Xiao Mountain to Yu Shinan and the others, he looked around and saw Ma Ju not far away, holding a big bloody basin and washing it by the river. A group of children were downstream of Ma Ju, fighting for the things that Ma Ju had thrown away. Zhongfeng couldn't help but remember something important. Ma Ju. Zhongfeng called from afar. In an instant, Ma Ju was stunned. He hurriedly threw down the basin and ran over. Teacher, are you looking for me? Zhongfeng nodded and pointed in the direction of the pig farm. Let's go, let's talk while we walk. Now, how's the matter of slaughtering pigs? When asked about this matter, Ma Ju's face showed an extremely excited expression. Teacher, I haven't been to the pig farm for some time. Previously, old Gao, Butcher Zheng, and I selected a few unusually active breeding pigs and bred them successfully. At present, most of the remaining pigs have been slaughtered. Then how's the situation? I'm asking about the mortality rate and survival rate. Zhongfeng nodded and asked. When asked about this, Ma Ju became even more excited. I'm thinking of reporting this matter to you when I teach next time. At present, the mortality rate is basically from an average of 30 out of 100 deaths. But now, it's less than 10. Moreover, after these pigs were deleted, they are not as active as before. They eat and sleep every day. Instead, they are fatter than those pigs. Half a month ago, old Gao took a litter of full-term pigs and tested it. He found that these pigs, after being fed with the feed prepared by Old Sun, increased their weight to about 90 pounds in half a month. This really made Ma Ju excited. Previously, when he was asked to slaughter pigs, Ma Ju was really unwilling. If it weren't for Zhongfeng's private teaching every 3 days, he wouldn't have been willing to do it. How could a student raise pigs? Moreover, his students had been ridiculed by the students on the mountain. They smelled of pig shit. However, slowly, Ma Ju also discovered the magic of Zhongfeng and the joy of raising pigs. Every day, he would record the growth, eating, and sleeping status of the pigs. That was not all. Every day, when he weighed the pigs, That was what excited him the most. As long as he saw a pig getting thinner, he would stop eating and thinking about why the pig got thinner. How could he not feel a sense of accomplishment when he saw a pig gaining weight by an average of 1 catty every day? The most important thing was that the pig meat that the shops and food factories were eating on the mountain and at the foot of the mountain were all made by him, which gave him an inexplicable sense of achievement. As Zhongfeng listened to Ma Ju's nagging, he couldn't help but look at this guy in doubt. This guy was really born with the appearance of a pig farmer. It seemed that he had found the right person to raise pigs. Ma Ju, let me ask you something. Answer me honestly. Zhongfeng interrupted Ma Ju's nagging as if he was presenting a treasure. Do you only slaughter the toothed pigs, or do you slaughter them together with the sows? Ma Ju heard and was a little confused. The sows need to give birth, but Butcher Zheng on the mountain refused to let us slaughter them. Old Gao also said that there was no need. Who said so? Zhongfeng asked and then pointed at the door of the pig farm. The two of them then entered Ma Ju's room on the second floor. Before the two of them sat down, Butcher Zheng brought his son and old Gao, whose hands were covered in blood, up to the second floor. Ayaya, Fengzi, why didn't you tell us that you were coming? We should at least clean up this place. Look at this mess. Clean up, clean up. Butcher Zheng hurriedly cleaned up the room and kicked Xiaohu Zheng. Why aren't you making tea for your brother Fengzi? No need, I just passed by here to take a look. By the way, Xiaohu, I think the academy will officially start teaching tomorrow. You should go too. Don't always deal with the pigs. Butcher Zheng's face trembled. He hurriedly asked in a trembling voice, Fengzi, you said Xiaohu can go too? Didn't I say it before? I want Xiaohu to become the best butcher in the Tang dynasty. I will do what I say, but you let him stay here all day. That's your fault. How can he be successful like this? Butcher Zheng was overjoyed. He kicked Xiaohu Zheng's butt and roared, why aren't you kowtowing to your brother Fengzi? No, your teacher? Xiaohu Zheng knelt down with a thud. Zhongfeng was speechless. Get up. I said that kneeling in the academy is not allowed. This is the last time. Butcher Zheng, I told you last time to help at the foot of the mountain. Why did you go up the mountain again? Hearing that, Zheng Tufu pointed at the dense swarm of pigs on the back mountain outside and said, Isn't it because we can't fit all these pigs? I'm always worried about letting this brat and Ma Ju herd the pigs. Besides, I'm worried about leaving Elder Gao here alone. Butcher Zheng had worked with pigs all his life. Although the food factory was very suitable, there were too many butchers there. It didn't matter if he was there or not. However, it was different on the mountain. Nothing here could do without him. Pigs, cows, sheep, chickens, ducks, which one of them didn't need him to take care of? He wouldn't be at ease if he left it to an outsider. Zhongfeng stared into Butcher Zheng's eyes. Seeing that he sincerely wanted to stay on the mountain, he took out a feed formula from his chest and said, Well, since you like dealing with pigs, cows, and sheep so much, I'll give you an important task now. Zhongfeng pointed at a piece of paper and said, This is the feed formula list. You just need to mix it according to the ratio. Now, leave the things here to Elder Gao. I'll arrange for someone to deal with it. You go to Chang'an and open a feed factory as fast as you can. As for the rest, you can go to Li Gan and ask him to deal with it for you. Then, I heard that the pigs in the other prefectures are being fed according to our method, but it's not a good idea to keep eating. Since you know how to feed pigs, do you want to go to the other prefectures of the Great Tang? Chapter 854. Hearing this, Zheng Tufu's eyes turned red. His breathing became a little hurried. Fengzi, why do you have to be like this? These things are all for your future. Just take it. We're all neighbors of Tong Hui Fang. When you're rich, will you forget about me? There's a saying that when a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs will ascend to heaven. Now that they all have things to do, and you're still here, I'm a little worried. Moreover, I'm not at ease leaving the pigs matter to others, so I can only leave it to you. Old Zheng, don't decline anymore. If you decline again, my family will be jealous. Old Gao said with a faint smile. Hearing this, Zheng Tufu took the paper from Zhongfeng's hand and treated it like a treasure. Seeing this, old Gao burst out laughing. Zhong Feng waved his hand and said, "All right, go and tell your family about this now. Your family members are taking good care of the chickens and ducks, so let them continue to take care of the chickens and ducks on the mountain. When the time comes and you've established a foothold at the foot of the mountain, take them over. I won't help you support your family anymore." Hearing this, Zheng Tufu took a deep breath, smacked his lips, and bowed deeply. He pulled Zheng Xiaohu's ear and left. After he left, Zhong Feng looked at old Gao and asked with a smile, "I've given him all the good things. Old Gao, don't you have anything to say?" Old Gao shrugged and pointed at Zhong Feng's ear, "Don't break this thing for me. There's also wine and meat. Otherwise, one night I'll have to take a knife and sit in your room for an entire night." Hearing this, Zhong Feng instantly felt a chill in his crotch. "Hihi, old Gao, you really know how to joke. How can I leave you out of this?" While speaking, Zhong Feng hurriedly took out a wooden box from his bosom and stuffed it into old Gao's hand. Then he said, "The matter on this mountain is very important. Old Gao, what do you think after these pigs are killed?" "What can I think? There are a few young eunuchs under my command who want to follow me. If you have a way, tell Laro Li and have him bring them out of the palace for me. It's fine as long as they stay by my side. It's hard in the palace. Would looking for Laro Li work?" Zhong Feng was very suspicious. However, he still nodded. "I'll inform Laro Li about this matter later. With Laro Li's current connections, a few eunuchs shouldn't be a problem." When Elder Gao heard this, he nodded in satisfaction. "When the matters here are settled, don't worry, old man won't go anywhere. If you want me to stay, I'll stay on the mountain to look after the pig farm for you. As for my subordinates, I plan to let them follow old Zheng. You also know that other than this mountain, the pigs in other places haven't been butchered yet. So, this is an industry, a skill that can fill their stomachs. You don't have any objections, right?" What opinion could Zhong Feng have? In this era, who would be willing to enter the palace and become a eunuch if they had the slightest means? It was only because their families were so poor that they couldn't afford to eat that they sold their children. The fact that old Gao was still thinking about the eunuchs in the palace while he was here undoubtedly made Zhong Feng feel a little touched. "Don't worry, you can discuss this matter with Tufu Zheng. I, Zhong Feng, won't take a single share of the profits from this matter." "How can that be?" Old Gao was unhappy. However, Zhong Feng insisted. This kind of money couldn't be touched. After that, Zhong Feng said, "Old Gao, let me ask you, how many sows are pregnant with piglets on the mountain now? I mean, how many sows are selected from the best breeds?" Without thinking, old Gao stretched out his hand and slapped him 50. "Good. These 50 pigs, I hope you can rear them in another pen and then select a batch of the best breeds from these pigs. After 3 generations, the stench on the breeding pigs will be completely gone. Moreover, at that time, if they are still fed according to the feed, they will grow to be 200 catties fat pigs in 3 months. Old Gao was a little doubtful about whether there was something wrong with his ears. 3 months. 200 catties? Now, if the situation on the mountain was normal, they could reach 200 catties in half a year. This was already an auspicious sign from the heavens. In these 3 months, what was that? Then, without waiting for old Gao to speak, Zhong Feng continued, "What I mean is that all the piglets that have been slaughtered on the mountain now are sold to the public. This new breed of pig will all be pushed out. In this way, the market for feed and pork, as well as the importance of pork, will be opened up." Zhong Feng's words instantly shocked old Gao. It wasn't that he hadn't thought about this matter, but he hadn't figured out how to do it. The sales of pork in Chang'an City were improving day by day. Even the rich families had accepted this kind of pork. This was all the formula that relied on Zhong Feng's magical herbs. But now, was Zhong Feng going to make this matter public? At this moment, Ma Ju was completely stunned. Ever since Zhong Feng asked Zheng Tufu to get the feed, he had guessed that Zhong Feng might be up to something big. But at this moment, Zhong Feng's words still gave him a big shock. Old Gao said worriedly, "If we do this, then these pigs will have nothing to do with us anymore." Zhong Feng was a little speechless. "Why? Do you really want White Deer College to take down the pig farm? Chapter 855. Actually, there was no need for the pig farm on the mountain to continue. The main reason why it was still being kept was to cultivate excellent breeds. Moreover, the people from Quan Quan and had seen these hundreds of thousands of pigs being driven up the mountain. If they were not given an explanation and continued to drive them away, where would Zhong Feng put his face? This was the most important thing. However, the most important thing that made Zhong Feng determined was the mid-autumn hunt. The mid-autumn hunt was usually held in the royal forest in the Qinling Mountains. However, due to the locust plague this year, there was no one in the forest. Zhong Feng was certain that the mid-autumn hunt this time would most likely be held in the blue sky Jade Mountain, which was near Mount Xiao. As for Jade Mountain, Yulifei Mountain was relatively closer. When the time came, he just needed to invite these people to the food factory on the mountain. Regardless of whether they were from the Ministry of Works or the Ministry of Rites, if they could resist Lao Tzu's culinary skills, it would be his loss. At this time, after eating and drinking, would the pork and pig's gizzards be a problem? That was what Zhong Feng wanted to do the most. Whose money was the easiest to earn? The emperor's money. Who had more money than the emperor? In addition, the emperor had already made a lot of money from the cooperative this time. If he did not take the opportunity to earn some money, he would be letting down Zhong Feng's cooperative. Thinking of this, Zhong Feng could not help but laugh. Cough, cough. Ma Ju saw old Gao laughing while looking at Zhong Feng. Ma Ju also wanted to laugh, but he did not dare to. He could only remind Zhong Feng to stop laughing. At this time, Zhong Feng also realized that he had lost his composure. He touched his nose and said, "Sorry, I was distracted. Let's get back to the topic. Old Gao, the farm on the mountain will definitely be closed in the future. However, I will set up an experimental base here to breed new breeds of pigs and other things. So, if you are interested, I will have to trouble you to help me." Experimental base. Old Gao was a little confused and asked, "Is it the same thing as this new breed of pig we're making now?" Zhong Feng nodded and then shook his head. "Not exactly. Other than pigs, I will also have people bring in some plants from the outer realms. For example, a new type of corn and other things. Corn, also known as millet. The rice of this era. They were basically called millet. As for this thing, it tasted. However, it was still too early to talk about these things. It was just drawing a big picture. The truth was to keep people here. As for old Gao, he could survive in such a complicated place like the palace. He had no problems with interpersonal relationships and management. Zhong Feng was relieved to leave this place to him. However, this was not the main point. The main point was that Zhong Feng wanted to keep Ma Ju in this experimental base. That week, he was very meticulous. Very suitable for this job. Zhong Feng looked at Ma Ju and said, "Ma Ju, what do you plan to do in the future? The pig will definitely not let you raise it. You've seen it for yourself. Have you thought about what you'll do in the future?" Ma Ju did not even have to think about it. He said, "Take the imperial examination and become an official in the imperial court. Good ambition. However, do you really think that you can only learn things by becoming an official in the imperial court?" This time, Ma Ju was really asked the right question. In his understanding, as well as most people's understanding, becoming an official in the imperial court and passing the imperial examination were important things that could change their fate. Nothing could make them rise to prominence in one step more than this. Zhong Feng pressed him step by step. "Are you sure this is what you want?" Zhong Feng's question really stumped Ma Ju. People have to have a goal in life. However, if everyone wants to pass the imperial examination and become an official in the imperial court, think about it. In this world, how many people can really pass the imperial examination? There are people who spend their entire lives fighting for this dream even when they are old. They even forget that they live in straw huts and eat. So, although I'm confident that you can pass the imperial examination in 3 years, what do you want to do after high school? Look at Dr. Sunday. He didn't become an official in the imperial court. Look at his achievements now. Even the emperor has to stand up to greet him. Did he choose to become an official in the imperial court? No. Passing the imperial examination is just a hope for you now. When you achieve it, what do you want to do? Ma Ju's heart suddenly became cold. He hurriedly bowed and said, Master, please enlighten me. Looking at Zhongfeng, Gao could not help narrowing his eyes slightly. At this time, Zhongfeng's words became more and more incomprehensible. Was this why the emperor and the crown prince were attracted to him? Zhongfeng continued, Sit down. After Ma Ju sat down, Zhongfeng said, People always need a goal. At this time, passing the imperial examination is your current goal. But before you achieve this goal, what do you want to do? What are you going to do after you achieve it? Hearing this, Ma Ju thought for a moment and said, Before the imperial examination in 3 years, I will listen to your arrangement. I will do whatever you ask me to do. Zhongfeng frowned slightly. I'm asking your own opinion. I don't need you to read it out. Hearing this, Ma Ju hurriedly wanted to get up, but he was pressed down by Zhongfeng. Master, in fact, I think it's quite good now. I like it very much. I just heard that you want to build an experimental base here. I want to stay in the experimental base. Hao Chu-jun and others have things to do now. Chen Tianyu and others also have things to do. Even the students in the paper mill are working. If I leave here, I really don't know what to do. The most important thing is that I like this way of life. I'm already enjoying watching the growth of pigs every day. Gao was a little shocked when he heard this. Was this place so good? It smelled of pig dung. How was it good? Was this what a decent person should do? But Zhongfeng's eyes lit up when he heard this. It seemed that he was not wrong about Ma Ju. This time, ever since it was recorded in history that after raising a horse, he really had a strange hobby. Good, very good. Zhongfeng patted Ma Ju's shoulder and said, Actually, I plan to build a research institute on the mountain. The dynamics, air resistance, atmospheric pressure, and so on that I asked you to learn, as well as the multiplication and division problems, are all preparations for the research institute in the future. And this place is naturally part of the research institute. When we were on the way here, I felt that you were suitable for botany and zoology. Now it seems that you are really suitable. Don't worry, from today onwards, as long as you work hard enough, I will definitely nurture you within 3 years. At that time, even if I, Zhongfeng, have to throw away my face, I will have elder son teach you how to differentiate between plants and their characteristics. At that time, when you become a high scholar, I will naturally have more important things for you. Ma Ju. As he spoke, Zhongfeng's expression turned serious. Are you willing to become someone who surpasses elder son? Ma Ju did not dare to be careless. He hurriedly bowed. I am willing. Chapter 856. Ma Ju was very excited. Finally, the day of his success had arrived. Ma Ju was very poor when he was young. He didn't even have enough food to eat. The reason why he wanted to participate in the imperial examination was because of his obsession. Only by doing so could he be considered outstanding. However, Zhongfeng's words just now seemed to have opened the door to another world for Ma Ju. Ma Ju's eyes instantly lit up. What about after high school? After achieving his wish, what did he want to do? He really didn't think about it. At this time, Zhongfeng's words woke him up from his dream. Ma Ju couldn't help but have the urge to cry. Previously, when Zhongfeng taught them aerodynamics and other things that they couldn't understand, Ma Ju listened very seriously. However, he was also calculating in his heart. This thing seemed profound, but it was completely different from what he needed. But now, Zhongfeng's words, especially that research institute, made Ma Ju see the light. He didn't expect to surpass Dr. Sun's achievements in the future. As long as he could achieve the same achievements as Dr. Sun, it didn't matter if he didn't take the imperial examination. Zhongfeng also bowed to Ma Ju and then said slowly, Let's go. Since it's decided, I'm also in the mood today. I'll bring you to broaden your horizons. Don't always live in your own world. Ma Ju heard this and bowed again. Then, he stood behind Zhongfeng without looking sideways. His goal was finally achieved. Zhongfeng didn't stay any longer. After all, The smell of pig dung here wasn't just a little strong. It was a little pungent. Old Gao, that kid will come to see you another day. I'll take my leave first. Old Gao also stood up and cupped his hands. This old man can eat and drink well here. There's no need to worry. You can go do your own things. Out of the pig farm. Zhong Feng instantly felt refreshed. The matter of the pig farm had already been discussed by some people. Moreover, it was to provide a full meal for the people on the mountain. Now, with the consumption of the food processing factory, the pigs on the mountain would be exhausted one day. At that time, what would happen? This question, Zhong Feng didn't even need to think about. Throw them all out. In the future, no one would bring up the 300,000 pigs again. Not only would he be at a disadvantage during the mid-autumn hunt, but he would also lose face during the mid-autumn poetry meet. What is a pig? No matter which era it was, this thing was synonymous with despicable. Therefore, Zhong Feng was in a hurry to finish the piggery before the mid-autumn hunt. And the most important thing was to trick Ma Ju into staying here. That was the most important thing. Other than Ma Ju, no one else could do it. The main thing was that he was not as meticulous as Ma Ju. Zhong Feng clasped his hands behind his back and hummed a song. Ma Ju followed closely behind Zhong Feng like a lackey. Just like that, the two of them followed the mountain stream and arrived at the workshop. At this moment, in the forging workshop. Because he knew that Zhong Feng was trying to go at him. His appearance had changed drastically. Under Zhong Feng's strong request, the guards here had been driven away. The shackles on these people were all thrown into the furnace. Even the workshop, which was only 100 square meters, was excavated by these people. They used wood to extend more than half of the area on the edge of the cliff. Smelting furnaces made of earth were built along the mountain wall. Some people even used bamboo to lead the water from the mountain stream to the workshop. Seeing this scene, Zhong Feng wished that Chen Tianyu and the other lazy guys didn't come to see it. Even the people from the western regions could think of it, and they had even learned the sharp irrigation method that he had personally taught countless times. How could any of them learn it? This was simply, the arrival of the two of them made the blacksmiths from the western region scream. They seemed to be reporting, but also seemed to be on guard. After all, the things that Zhong Feng had said and done had made them worried and excited. They hadn't seen Zhong Feng for a few days. Now that they saw him again, they were a little worried. Mokiado and Arkinnon hurried out of the cave when they heard the news. Except for their eyes, their bodies were pitch black, as if they had drilled into a coal mine. When they saw Zhong Feng and Ma Ju, but did not see Niu Jindar and the others behind Zhong Feng, they heaved a deep sigh of relief. They turned around and shouted a few times. Then, the crowd gradually quieted down. The two of them ran towards Zhong Feng. "Honorable Dean, are you here to inspect?" "Ha ha ha, no, no. I'm just here to take a look. You guys go ahead. Don't mind me." Zhong Feng waved at the crowd in the distance. Then, he pointed at the rocks outside the workshop and sat down. "What are you two doing? Why do you look like this?" After walking closer, Zhong Feng saw that the two of them had curly hair that resembled the hair of a golden lion king. It had long been burnt yellow by the smoke, and there were even some bumps and hollows due to the fire sparks. Hearing this, the two of them looked at each other. Arkinnon then said, it was because of the smelting that Mr. Dean mentioned. There were a few mishaps. The furnace exploded 3 times and the fire was extinguished 5 times. In the end, the two of us dug a cave in the mountain wall and prepared to test the power of the fire in the cave to see if it could be improved to a higher level. Otherwise, with the current temperature of the fire, let alone the steel that you mentioned, we can't even smelt fine iron. Unable to condense high temperature? Zhong Feng frowned slightly. That's impossible. In his previous life, he often watched the live broadcasts of those awesome outdoor people. Didn't those awesome people smelt like this? Zhong Feng seemed to have thought of something. He waved his hand and said, let's go take a look at your furnaces first. Chapter 857. Seeing this, the two of them hurriedly got up and led Zhong Feng into the workshop. It was early July now, and although it was not as hot as before, the temperature in the workshop was extremely high. From a distance, There seemed to be only 10 strange forging furnaces burning red in the workshop. However, as soon as Zhong Feng walked in, he realized that the forging furnaces that old Li and the rest had brought over had been dismantled by these people, and there was nothing left of them. In the place where the mountain wall used to be, there was a furnace about 6 meters tall. At this moment, a few Western regionists, who were only wearing loincloths, were desperately filling it with charcoal. Arkin-non and Mokoko led Zhong Feng around these people and entered a natural cave that was only 10 meters deep. Everyone looked at Zhong Feng. Although they were not vigilant, they did not pay any attention to him either. It was as if Zhong Feng was invisible. Zhong Feng did not care about this. He followed Arkin-non and Mokoko into the expanded cave. As soon as they entered the cave, a wave of heat almost made Zhong Feng faint. More importantly, there was a smell of cumin, which was unique to the Western regionists. Zhong Feng resisted this strange smell and frowned slightly as he looked at the furnace that was dug out by hand from the mountain wall. This furnace was ventilated using both ears. However, in this enclosed environment, there was no way to vent. The fire could not be concentrated at all. Be careful, Mr. Dean. The molten iron will be ready soon. Please stand back and wait for me to release the molten iron for you to see. While speaking, Arkin-non and Mokiado talked for a while. Then, Arkin-non picked up a small iron hammer and an iron rod and fiercely hammered a few times at the bottom of the furnace that was covered in mud. As the hammer fell, the area was filled with a scarlet light. Mokoko shouted in a low voice, "Be careful, Mr. Dean. Open the furnace." Clang. Algernon swung his hammer down. Drops of crimson liquid flowed out from the cracks created by the iron rod. Once the crimson liquid came into contact with the ground, a sizzling sound could be heard. Mokiado hurriedly picked up a hoe and dug a trench in the ground to guide the molten iron to flow out. Although the furnace looked very big. However, there was very little molten iron. Not long after, the molten iron flowed out of the mountain, and the molten iron stopped dripping from the furnace. Only then did Arjinin order the others to bring buckets of water and pour it on the ground around the molten iron. In an instant, pitch-black smoke mixed with the smell of iron filled the entire smelting workshop. Zhong Feng couldn't take it anymore. Covering his mouth and nose, he hurriedly fled the workshop. Ma Ju was completely dumbfounded. It was his first time coming to this workshop, so how would he know that all the expensive ironware and bronzeware that he usually knew about were produced this way? Not long after, the smoke was blown away by the wind in the valley. Arjinin called for Zhong Feng in the workshop. As soon as he entered the workshop, Arjinin handed a piece of newly smelted iron to Zhong Feng. "Mr. Dean, the temperature is still not high enough. This is the kind of steel you mentioned." Zhong Feng frowned slightly. He took out a delicate curved knife from his waist and used the back of the knife to gently cut the palm-sized piece of iron. In an instant, the knife left a mark on the piece of iron that was still a little red. "No, this is still iron. Was there a problem with the steps?" Zhong Feng couldn't help but remove the videos in his mind. He searched for the physics knowledge he had learned in high school and college, as well as the methods to forge iron. Zhong Feng could not help but slowly figure out the reason. Looking at the charcoal in the corner, Zhong Feng asked, "You've been using this before?" Arjinin nodded. "Is there anything else that can replace this?" Zhong Feng seemed to have realized the problem. He turned around and asked Ma Ju, "Do you know that the Tang dynasty uses charcoal to forge iron?" Ma Ju didn't know what Zhong Feng was trying to say, but he still nodded. "Yes, it's charcoal. Go and call Li Gan. I have something to talk to him about." Zhong Feng frowned. After Ma Ju left in a hurry, Zhong Feng squatted next to a strange smelting furnace on the edge of the cliff, carefully watching a craftsman from the Western region's forge. When the charcoal in the furnace burned to a certain degree, the craftsman would put in a few more pieces of charcoal and then take out some of the ashes from the bottom of the furnace. He did this repeatedly without stopping. Zhong Feng pointed at the craftsman and asked, "Do you smelt like this?" "Yes." Both Arjinin and Mokiado nodded. Then Mokiado said, "I've visited the Tang dynasty before. At that time, it wasn't called the Tang dynasty yet. Although the method of forging in the Tang dynasty is different from mine, they still use the same method. There's no difference." Hearing this, Zhongfeng finally found the crux of the problem. He asked calmly, "Are you sure that the Tang dynasty used this method to smelt iron?" "Yes." Zhongfeng was speechless. No wonder they couldn't forge iron. It would be strange if they could forge iron using this method. In this era, there should have been coal a long time ago. Why didn't they use that thing? Why did they keep the temperature of the flame at a certain point? Smelting is such a simple thing. Why is it so difficult in this era? Chapter 858. Coal. As far as Zhongfeng knew, apart from electricity, it was the best combustion-supporting material that could maintain a constant temperature, apart from natural gas and gas. Zhongfeng would not dare to make it even if it was given to him now. That thing could kill people. Zhongfeng did not say anything else. While waiting for Li Qian, he was also thinking of more ways to smelt steel. There was another way, which was to hammer and smelt. However, there was not enough time. The sword that old Li had promised him had not been delivered yet, and he had not seen the person either. Needless to say, this old man was probably very busy right now. If Zhongfeng couldn't come up with this within a month, then he wouldn't be able to get Emperor Yang's personal sword. Even if old Li gave it to him, he wouldn't be able to do it. This steel was something that he needed now. Especially the gun. After getting the immortal cream, Zhongfeng was eager to make it for self-defense. It was not for anything else but to be safer when he went out in the future. Who knew how many pairs of eyes were watching him from below Xiao Mountain? After a while, Li Chengqian arrived at the workshop breathlessly. The moment he entered the workshop, he could not stop wiping his sweat with a handkerchief. As he wiped his sweat, he pulled Zhongfeng and ran out. "Fengzi, let's go. Let's find a cool place. This place is too hot, isn't it?" The five of them left the smithy and instantly felt comfortable all over. Then, Li Chengqian asked, "Why are you looking for me? You made the steel?" Zhongfeng shook his head and asked, "Let me ask you, have you heard of coal?" Li Chengqian looked at Zhongfeng in surprise and nodded. "That's easy. Get some people to get me 10 carts of coal. I need it urgently." Li Chengqian was a little confused. "Fengzi, do you know what that thing is for?" "It's for burning." "What can it do?" Zhongfeng impatiently snatched the handkerchief from Li Chengqian's hand and wiped the black sweat on his forehead. Li Chengqian felt a little heartache, but he couldn't care less. Li Chengqian naturally knew about this coal, but only some people in the palace, as well as some high-ranking officials and dignitaries, could afford to use it. And at this time, where could he go to get it? The weather was so hot, who was going to dig coal for him? The most important thing was that this thing was not called coal now, but stone charcoal. Li Chengqian also guessed some things from the conversation with Ma Ju on the way. "Fengzi, do you know that not everyone can afford to use this thing?" Zhongfeng's face was full of question marks. F*ck, isn't it just a piece of rotten coal? You can't afford it. Li Chengqian felt a headache coming on. He pointed at Ma Ju and said, "You tell him that I'm feeling a little suffocated." Ma Ju was also a little confused, but since Li Chengqian had spoken, he could only whisper, "Teacher, this thing, other than those in the palace and the various princes and ministers, there really aren't many people who are qualified to use it. Also, the price of the coal, how much for a cart?" Zhongfeng just remembered that this was the Tang dynasty, not the future. In the future, a bag of anthracite only cost 70 yuan, but there were still many people who couldn't afford it. Ma Ju stretched out 2 fingers and made a peace sign. 2,000 strings of cash for a cart. So expensive? Zhongfeng was also a little surprised. "Li Chengqian, how much money do we have in the account now? Is it enough to buy 10 carts?" Li Chengqian sighed and looked at Zhongfeng as if he was looking at an idiot. He said 2,000 strings of cash for a stone, and in this kind of weather, unless it's winter, there are no merchants selling this thing at this time. Most importantly, this thing is basically in the hands of the Taiyuan Wang clan now. Even if the emperor wants it, he has to send a letter in advance, 5 surnames and 7 hopes. Zhongfeng's eyelids twitched when he heard this. This was really difficult to deal with. The Guanlong 8 great families controlled the trade routes, and the 5 surnames and 7 hopes controlled all the mineral veins and grain industries in the Tang dynasty. This matter was clearly recorded in history. With a little hint, Zhongfeng instantly understood. However, the matter of steel had already progressed to this point. Wouldn't it be a joke to give up at this time? Moreover, this charcoal was really not good. It could be used to melt glass and other things, but if you want to refine steel, then you have to get coal. Zhongfeng couldn't help but have a headache. He really didn't know that the control of coal mines in the Tang dynasty was so strict. Zhongfeng didn't give up and asked, apart from the Tang dynasty, are there any coal mines in Tubo and Tuyuhun? Yes, but now the situation in Tubo, then immediately ask your people to find a way to get me some coal. Anyway, I'll say it right here. Without coal, let alone a gun, I can't even make a spear that can break through anything. Li Chengqian was shocked. Ma Ju, Algernon, and Mokiado were also shocked at this time. A spear that could break anything? What was that? Also, what was this flamethrower? Could it be that these two things that they had never heard of were the things that the dean talked about the other day? They couldn't help but have a trace of fire in their eyes. Chapter 859. Zhongfeng was silent. He was silent for a long time. He also thought for a long time in his mind. If the coal problem was not solved, it would be really difficult to get anything in the future, let alone other things. Zhongfeng looked at Li Chengqian and asked again, is there any way to get me a batch of coal now? It's possible. But this thing, Zhongfeng did not want to listen to his explanation. He patted him on the shoulder with a smile and said, do you want me to give you a gun and let you show off? Yes. How could Li Chengqian not want to? He was about to go crazy thinking about it. It might not be easy to get it from others, but if Zhongfeng gave it away, it would be a different story. Then go and get me 10 carriages of coal. If you can get it for me before tonight, I'll owe you a favor. How about it? Li Chengqian was going crazy at this time. He just nodded no matter what Zhongfeng said. After that, Zhongfeng patted him on the shoulder and said, then why don't you go now? If you can't get it before tonight, I won't even give you a fire stick, let alone a gun. Okay, I'll go now. Li Chengqian left happily. If he wanted 10 carriages of coal, he really did not have it in the Chang'an local treasury. But if he wanted 1 carriage, he could find a little bit of it. Even if his father knew, he would not blame him. After Li Chengqian left, Zhongfeng called Arkinnon over again and said, actually, there is another way to get the thing I said. Arkinnon's eyes lit up when he heard that. He hurried over. Director, this way is making steel with the earth method. Earth method? Is it a secret of the Tang dynasty? More than 30 craftsmen from the western regions immediately stopped their work and gathered around. Zhongfeng pointed at the forging table on the side, and then picked out 2 relatively strong men from the crowd. He took out a pair of tongs and took out a piece of red-hot, fist-sized iron from the fire. He threw it on the forging table and said, later, beat it until it's only the size of an egg and as thin as a leaf, and then come find me. When Li Gan brings the coal over at night, you guys can use coal instead of charcoal. However, you have to make sure that the coal is red-hot before you replace it. Raise the temperature of the flame as much as you can. Don't let the temperature of the flame fluctuate. After saying that, Zhongfeng no longer paid any attention to them. Arkinnon was dumbfounded. Looking at the red-hot iron on the forging table, he was a little confused. Could this thing be hammered to that extent? However, since Zhongfeng said it, they had no choice but to do it. Moreover, Algernon was a madman. After hearing about Zhongfeng's forging method, he couldn't help but be eager to try it out. However, the fire. That was what attracted Algernon the most. At this time, as soon as Zhongfeng left, Mokiado and the others couldn't help but come up and ask, Old Algernon, what do you think about the problem of the flame's temperature? Also, is this forging method really effective? Algernon smacked his lips. In fact, he also had doubts in his heart. Well, I don't know if it will work or not, but if we can really master this kind of forging method, we can get rid of the slave status and also become famous in the Tang dynasty. Isn't this attractive to you, Mokiado? Haven't you always wanted to come to the Tang dynasty? Now that you're here, if we can really make the thing that Zhongfeng said and is willing to teach us, we can really become the people of the Tang dynasty. On the other side. In fact, Zhong Feng was lazy and asked Mokiado to make a basketball. But now, it seemed that he had to do it himself. Looking around, Zhong Feng suddenly realized that he really couldn't find a quiet place. After thinking about it, he called Hua Li, who was waiting for work at the mountain gate, and pointed to the foot of the mountain. The two of them hurried down the mountain. The matter of the rubber. Zhong Feng had been preparing. However, after the bicycle was made last time, the rubber was basically given to Chen Tianyu and the others to deal with. However, he still had a lump of rubber in his tavern. Now, the tavern seemed to be his last pure land. At 5:30 p.m., Zhong Feng and Ma Ju returned to the tavern again. Looking at the mottled Yulai tavern, Zhong Feng had some indescribable emotions. This was the first time Ma Ju came to the tavern. However, he had long heard of the legend of the tavern. At this time, seeing Zhong Feng's solemn expression, he didn't dare to make a sound. He followed Zhong Feng into the tavern. Naturally, the most attractive thing was the poem that looked like scribbles on the wall of the tavern. Ma Ju squatted on the ground to study the poem. Zhong Feng ignored him and went straight to the backyard. He took out his set of smelting equipment, set up a furnace, and lit a charcoal fire. Then, he pulled out a black iron pot from the firewood pile in the corner of the courtyard. The iron pot was a normal pot, but the bottom of the pot was covered in a layer of dust. It looked like mud. This was what Zhong Feng needed at this time. Rubber. Chapter 860. In Zhong Feng's tavern, a wisp of smoke slowly rose. The remaining people in Tonghui Lane who were strolling on the streets also noticed it. For a while, the news of Zhong Feng's return spread like wildfire. Feng Zi is back. Zhong Feng returned to the tavern. Didn't you want your distant cousin and nephew to go to Feng Zi's academy? Feng Zi is back. What? What did you say? Zhong Feng, that brat is back. Let's go and have a look. On the other side, in Hengtong Private Bank, Qian Tong was fiddling with the beads on his abacus, calculating the accounts. The smile on his face never stopped. Some time ago, when he learned that he was going to go up the mountain to catch that unfilial son of his, Qian Wanli directly threw a stack of paper at his face. Qian Tong was stunned. He didn't even want to call him back. When Qian Tong knew that Zhong Feng had basically handed over the paper-making business to Qian Wanli, Qian Tong was so happy that he almost died. After that, Qian Wanli would go home every few days on the pretext of delivering paper to Chang'an. Every time he went home, although Qian Wanli would only leave a piece of paper, it was the kind of paper that had not been cut. This time, Qian Tong was overjoyed. 2 days after the 300,000 pigs went up the mountain, the braised meat and the paper broke out in Chang'an at the same time. However, the paper seemed to have disappeared without a trace. It couldn't be found in Chang'an. Subsequently, the price of this kind of paper soared in Chang'an City. Even in the black market, a piece of paper the size of a palm could be sold for more than 100,000 coins. By chance, someone found out that Qian Tong's son was the manager of the paper-making business and couldn't help but pester him. Qian Tong was also a powerful person. He immediately took out the big piece of paper. The asking price is 5,000 strings of cash, and the highest bidder wins. Then, under his astonished gaze, this piece of paper was actually pocketed by a third-rank official of the Ministry of Works for the last 17,000 strings of cash. Although Qian Wanli would still come back every time, the amount of paper he brought was getting lesser and lesser. What's more, a lot of it was what Qian Wanli called waste paper. What made Qian Tong even angrier was that his silly son actually wanted him to give him a receipt, then happily took a few dozen strings of money and went back home, saying that it was for the public account. But none of this mattered. The matter of Hengtong Bank having paper buy in it had made Qian Tong famous, and the business of his bank had also improved a lot. This made him smile so much that his teeth couldn't be contained. Master, master, something's wrong, something's wrong. While Qian Tong was happily fiddling with the beads on his abacus, a sharp voice that made him want to punch someone suddenly rang out. Qian Tong angrily grabbed the abacus and shouted, "Is your mother dead? Or is your father alive?" This master said that when I'm settling accounts, no one is allowed to disturb me. Was your brain eaten by a dog? When the servant heard this, he felt extremely wronged. He stammered, "Master, didn't you tell us to keep an eye on the Yulai Tavern?" Chen Tong was startled when he heard this, and when he thought about what the servant had shouted as soon as he came in, he hurriedly asked, "Tell me, what happened to the Yulai Tavern?" "The tavern. Prince Zhong seems to have returned. There are a lot of people outside the tavern. Go, 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 prepare a sedan for old man, let's go to Tonghui Square." Chen Tong was overjoyed when he heard this. He was a businessman, and everything he did was for profit. At this time, his son was so highly regarded in White Deer College. Not only did he work in the paper mill during the day, but he also gave private lessons at night. One had to know that there were at least 2,000 students on this mountain. However, this President Zhong, Lord Zhong, actually valued his family's Chen Wanli so much. Chen Tong couldn't help but tighten his grip on the wooden box in his hand and sit in the sedan chair. He learned from his son that Zhong Feng didn't lack anything. He didn't like anything. But there was one thing. And that was that he liked to collect all kinds of rare treasures. This made him, who had always wanted to visit Zhong Feng and talk about paper and the braised meat business, unable to find a way to do so. Now that he knew that Zhong Feng was in the tavern, how could Chen Tong sit still? Along the way, even if the sedan bearers ran at full speed, Chen Tong still felt that they were too slow. On the other side, Yuchi Yu who had nothing to do, was in a daze in Yuchi Estate's waterside pavilion when she happened to hear a group of soldiers talking in private. It was related to Zhong Feng. Yuchi Yu couldn't help but ask hurriedly, "Little brothers, were you talking about Prince Zhong on Xiao Mountain just now?" Those who were able to serve as soldiers in the Yuchi estate were all Yuchi Gong's loyal followers. As for the rumors about Yuchi Yu, how could they not know about it? They lowered their heads and didn't dare to look at Yuchi Yu. "Miss, someone outside the estate just heard that Prince Zhong returned to the tavern." Hearing this, the sadness on Yuchi Yu's face was swept away. She hurriedly lifted the hem of her skirt and was about to run out of the door. Seeing this, the soldiers turned pale with fright and hurriedly stopped Yuchi Yu, saying, "Miss, the patriarch ordered. Your patriarch is my brother. My brother didn't allow me to go up the mountain, but it doesn't mean that I can't go to Chang'an City, right?" When the soldiers heard this, their foreheads were instantly covered in cold sweat. "Miss, we are just following orders. Please, get out of my way. The emperor and the retired emperor have acquiesced. Who do you think you are? If you dare to stop me again, believe it or not, I will tell my cousin that you bullied me." They couldn't help but panic.